Welcome to our IndianaMat State Hangout. Sorry for only doing one to this week. We were trying to do two, but a couple of us were a little under the weather. Hopefully, we're all at least close to 90% for state. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm excited. Lots of great matchups that we're going to dive into. We got Chad Hollenball, Carl's comments. She's going to hopefully put probably one more out tomorrow, but semifinals.
Get the second one I just sent.
Yep. Yeah, we just put that up right before we kind of went on here.
Working on semis and finals now.
Yeah, so hopefully those will be out tomorrow. And we're going to be talking some wrestling. Coach Podowski is here. He was at Newcastle where there was a little bit of craziness. Not really, I'd say some upsets, but at the same time, there are matches we all were, when we were on here last week, we looked at and said that could be, there's a landmine sitting right there. There's a landmine sitting right there. And I think more than one of those went off on Saturday. And then we have Mike Reiser, rankings guru. Did pretty poorly on the rankings this year. You know, if he gets lower than 169 next year, he's fired. So start putting in your resumes.
Disappointing is disappointment.
So send those resumes to Joe at IndianaMat. I do know I haven't done the semi-state results, Pick'em's results. I do know that Caleb won the Fort Wayne one over his arch nemesis Sprunger. So Caleb might be applying for that job. So you better get to work, Mike. No, just kidding. Coach Podowski, we'll start with you. What happened at Newcastle? Was it pretty much any upset or any match that was kind of close? Went to the lower ranked guy or the guy that no one was expecting?
Where?
At Newcastle. Sounds like that was probably the place with the most upsets.
No, I think what happened at Cathedral came to wrestle. Around Newcastle was in a 1-point match and they were going to win. It reminded me an awful lot of watching Modern Day in the late 90s of just, who the hell's that guy? And it's a Cathedral kid in a close match, and they find a way to win. And Coach McGinley and his crew, they did it again. They wrestled well in February. And, boy, they put on a show.
Yeah, it sounds like the small teams like Shendo really came, and Shendo and Lawrenceburg, they brought sounds like they brought a lot of fans, like half the stadium.
You know what? That was a lot of fun. And as the day got going and they started winning some matches, when Geese went in and those guys are going through the crowd, you could see Coach Black and Coach Black turn up and look, and there'd be a wave of Shenandoahans. Stand up and jump up and down. I mean, it was exciting for the sport to see a bunch of people excited about it. And then I think when the Lawrenceburg guys would come through and those group of guys would win, that regional would kind of just stick together, and they were excited, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great environment.
Yeah, it's always good. Always good to have that environment. I know I've talked to some people about just the atmosphere of the ticket round of how it just so you can just feel the tenseness, knowing that your season's coming down to this, and then that semifinal round. There's just such a cool. It's so much relief in the air that either you punched your ticket or you didn't, but people are relieved. And so,
I've been lucky enough to be, I've gone to 2 semi-states. I've gone down to Evansville to watch a couple team, some of the team stuff down from Evansville. But, as everybody talked about the environment in Maryville semi-state of all the years they have, and I know Reeser can try to tell you, but you'd have to be in that gym for the rounds of the Maryville semi-state to actually understand what it's like to have that group of people. I always try to send a picture when the Newcastle was at semi-state of me sprawled out in the bleachers at Newcastle with as much room as I want. Where I'm, you spend a couple of years at Maryville, you're standing in the corner of Maldonado spilling a hot dog on you, and there's some guy from Hammond telling you to kiss his fanny, while some guy from Logansport is, saying, get out of my way, you don't own this place, and there's not enough room for anybody but the Maryville people.
Yeah. What, Mike, how did year 2 at East Chicago go?
I thought they did a good job. They definitely ran a lot smoother. They ran all the semis on 4 mats. I know some people liked it, some people didn't, but it takes a lot of people to run it. I don't think East Chicago had a lot of kids, so I know that the Maldonados were run a lot of stuff, and they brought a lot of family in to help run things. I know they addressed some of the concession stuff, but they ran smooth. I thought it was a good day.
There's probably enough Maldonados in there to run like a tournament with 12 mats, isn't there?
I think so. The dads and the kids and their cousins and everything. So it was exciting.
I thought the wrestling-wise, it was kind of a tale of two. There was the first two rounds, which I thought Portage dominated. They had momentum. Their fans were getting after it. As guys after guy just punched their ticket. A guy like Brock Peel, 11 losses, wins the thing. But I thought the semifinals and finals, then Chesterton is the team that stepped up big time there. You know, they had, 5 in the finals and 4 champions or something like that. So Portage early, Chesterton late, and then you had like smaller stories like the 2 Rensselaer lightweight guys coming out of no respect, and they, you know, their coaches. I haven't seen happier coaches to get kids to the state. You know, there's always celebration, but these guys were really celebrating in the corner, especially when they're 113. They're 106. I think they maybe expected. The 113 got through, and they were ecstatic. It was fun to watch that.
Yeah, I want to say Ryan Webb started the year on the magazine ranked. He beat Andres Moreno last year.
Oh, dude.
Semi-state. So, you know, that was awesome for those guys. It's Portage looked a little flat. I know someone said they were dealing with a bug. Actually, Bedoya said that on the broadcast. So, I mean, usually they're very up and going, and I think they just kind of, you could tell there was something off. I don't want to make excuses for anyone, but they definitely looked a little off. Chesterton looked good, but Chesterton has, you know, 4 or 5 horses that that they could contend this weekend also. You know, you start rolling, you know, 60, 82, 95, 220. Danny got in there. I know 106, like right off the bat, like was just some what I thought were upsets. Obviously, nothing's an upset there, but Sean Hollis, I think he was up 8-2, 8-1, and he gets headlocked and pinned by the IndianaMat kid.
Right.
So, you know, that was a kid. If I had to pick one kid at 106 that I thought was going to get out for sure, it would have been Hollis. He'd been wrestling really well. Turn around, and they, you know, I talked to Bobby Joe. They're excited. They're like, yeah, we're running to the finals. And I think they had beat Tolan a couple times, and Tolan takes him down, wings him, and sticks him. So, I mean, obviously 3 of the 4 of us have been at East Chicago and Maryville, and that's just how it goes, you know. A lot of tough guys. You're in the ticker on over there. Anything can really happen. Portage had a nice crowd, so. Yeah,
and then Maryville has, you know, a disappointment like that, and then they turn around and probably have the upset of the entire meet when, you know, you don't know, but just in terms of resume, you got 2-time state champ Cummings that got beat by Michael De La Pena, so he's been close, but no one would. You'd probably get maybe 5% people that would have picked De La Pena there, and that obviously made up for some a great draw here for the fans. Not great for the 2 kids involved for Friday night.
Yeah.
I have a question.
What's up?
Why are we running the semifinals of the semi-state tournament on 4 mats? That crushed me.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to get out earlier. That's the only reason I can understand why.
They wanted to get you out there when it's still daylight. It's East Chicago. You know, no, I don't know. I used to, you know, I'm in the minority of I liked it at Maryville. I don't think it was as bad after the ticket round when they brought the other bleachers out, but it just definitely felt big. At Maryville, it felt big. They had the, you know, semifinals. It a big event. East Chicago, they had all lights on. It just kind of went. It just felt like a regional. I think that towards the end of the day, I felt like after the ticket round, a lot of people left.
Yeah.
Like I felt like when I looked around, there was a lot of people there before that, and then at the after the ticket round, it wasn't as electric as it had been. So,
did they run semis on 4 mats at Newcastle or not?
They did, and I don't like it. And I mean, it's my opinion. Everybody goes, yeah, that's fine. I'm a big fan of get your regular season stuff, get in there, get your matches, get the hell out of there. But I mean, I think there's a little bit of showcase of our sport. there were some great matches in the semifinals going on, and why we can't keep them? One mat is the top half of the bracket, the other mat's the bottom half of the bracket. Let's go. And okay, you're going to add an hour to the day. That's an hour a day I want.
Yeah, I agree. They've been doing that for a while at Fort Wayne, and I know if the thing is if you have multiple kids, you're two kids close together. If you're running two match, you're not going to be splitting coaches up and splitting wisdom. I guess I don't like to be split up. In those big matches. Those are big matches. And, I'm all the way across the gym on another mat and seeing my kid getting taken down or, something happen that I can't, control. But yeah, I do. I mean, it's an hour basically. And really, in all honesty, it's probably about 45 minutes.
But I got a crazy opinion, or does anybody else go, yeah, you know what? I'd really like to know what everybody else thinks about that, because I've got some crazy opinions.
I like the two, Matt. I do
too. I don't see why. I mean, it's literally 45 minutes to an hour that you're going to add by breaking it down to two mats. And it's nice. Those kids deserve to be showcased. They're all going to state. They don't need to be, shuffled in and out like that,
Especially in this type of year. And I know we've kind of talked about it on the last week's shows. I'd rather have that showcase of a De La Pena Cummings, which, and no disrespect to Reese Rodriguez and Ian Dabowski, that probably should have been the finals. And you want to have a spotlight on that. Now it's in the back corner, and you're trying to watch three other matches, and kind of curtail off that. You're right. Portage is at a disadvantage. They're running 113, 120, 132, 138, 145 out there at the same time. Yeah. I know they have a handful of coaches, but selfishly, I would want Leroy and Keith in my corner every time,
Yeah. Instead, they're splitting them up most of the time.
No, I think what about the 300 to 500 people that come to Newcastle to watch semi-state because they want to watch semi-state? I think we're going to make our sport spectator friendly. And, like I said, this is my opinion. Make your regular season stuff go as quick as you can. Get the heck out. And if you got something big and going on for a dual meet or a big marquee matchup, set it up so it's spectator friendly. But there isn't anybody that doesn't love the semi-state. There ain't anybody that doesn't love the state tournament. Why are we running the semi-state tournament to go through as fast as we can to get done? I can't get my head.
Yeah, I don't. Other than we want to get out an hour early, and even if it's ran, ours ran fairly well. We had a heavyweight, and I think we were out by 6. So what, you're gonna get out at 7? That's not gonna, change very much. I don't know. I agree, and I think I don't know why. I've never heard the reason other than they want to get done quicker. I think
I didn't have to, but I was on the mic for 9 hours. I would have been on the mic for 10 hours. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think. My guess is you have, saying time factor. You got some teams traveling 2.5, 3 hours. That would be my guess. Not that it's that valid of a reason, but some places have long drives. That would be my only other caveat to why they might have.
I didn't think of that.
But Saturday night, it's not like you can still get up for church.
Yeah,
I saw something I never saw before, and it was kind of crazy. I saw a family on a train in a train yard taking a picture of graffiti with their kids on there. Mom had her camera. Kids climbed up on the train and they were taking pictures of it. And I was like shocked. I wanted to be like, hey, get off there. That thing can move at any second.
From Frontier High School or where?
I don't want to send the school out there, but it's a little more high end than Frontier, I guess. Okay. I don't know Frontier. They have money. And I was just thinking, like, this is what people talk about. When comedians are making jokes, that's some real like rich people stuff. I'm looking at a picture of my kid on a train with graffiti on it. And I'm thinking, like, one, like, you're putting yourself in danger because of you. That's where they want to get you at.
You're not gonna see that. You're not gonna see Clown Baby doing that in Carmel. I know.
There's no trains.
They're banned from Carmel.
I had to drive into Anderson one day for something. I got stopped by a train in Anderson. I almost started crying. I want to call my grandma.
Where's the roundabout to get around this thing?
Oh, nice. Oh,
But
goodness.
I mean, other than running on 4 mats, Chicago did a great job. They had shuttles for people at our park. They had they addressed, like I said, they addressed. The wrestling's always good. It's always good wrestling. I don't think that's ever. I never left the East Chicago or Maryland like, wow, that was just a really bad day of wrestling. Even the years I was put out the semi-state, I was still like, wow, the finals are really good. I got a free ticket to watch good wrestling.
What about Fort Wayne, Joe? What were the main storylines there?
Not too much crazy happened. Yorktown looked pretty good. They lost a couple guys that I think they were probably expecting to kind of push through. Bar losing was probably one of their bigger ones, regional champ. The biggest, I guess, I mean, for some people would be surprised was Mason Winter from Jay County. He's pretty tough. I know I've seen him a little bit, a couple years ago. I knew he was pretty good, and he ran through some. I mean, he had to go through a wrestler and then go through Arnie, my kid, and that was a heck of a bracket. You know, he losing that regional didn't put himself in the easiest spot, but he overcame it. Jimtown looked pretty tough with 3 champs, Gimson, Watts, and Kenny Kern, and then Belmont looked pretty solid. Hopefully they gonna pull for the Belmont, the Decatur Magic to get a medal for the first time in a few years, but not really too many upsets, not too many there's some great matches. I know there's some kids that kind of put out some overtime matches that, you know, were good. Just pretty solid wrestling. No, there weren't the crazy death draws that we usually have there. So, I mean, I think probably the biggest upset was probably Winter over Wrestler. So, other than that, everything went fairly well to chalk. So that's why Caleb did win the pick'ems. So, because his rankings were so good. With that, Evansville, since we don't have an Evansville representative, Brownsburg.
I was going to say, just looking at the brackets, it looked like Columbus East had probably – Brownsburg kind of expected to do what they did, but Columbus East looked like they had some momentum, obviously the Rooks brothers, but then it looks like they carried some other guys, did a nice job and put themselves in a position to maybe, finish top 5 in the state. That's the one thing I noticed.
Yeah, Columbus East kind of they're the lightweight. You could combine Columbus East and Chesterton, and they would be a national powerhouse because they both have Columbus East doesn't have the horsepower up top, but they have it down low. Avon looked good, obviously. Brownsburg was expected to be good. Monrovia had the Stock brothers and Garrison Lee qualify, so that's good for them. We got to give it a shout out to the Stock brothers, so we don't get in trouble.
Knocked off state runner up Burke Van Horn. So
twice now.
18 twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think there are too many crazy upsets at Evansville. Other than, I know they're talking about a couple teams like Mater Dei and Castle kind of didn't do as well as people thought. I know Castle came in with 13 and didn't leave with anyone, but looking through the brackets, I don't think they didn't have the most favorable draws, and you had to perform a little bit in a few of those matches.
Right.
Other than that, I'm just looking through the brackets. I didn't see anyone like any crazy upsets. It seems like they were just limited to the Newcastle semi-state area. So we'll move on to our state brackets. Some fun stuff. A lot of great weights, a lot of great first round matchups. Like we said earlier, Mike got 169 of the state qualifiers are ranked. We haven't done the preseason rankings yet. I should go through those and see what it looks like, because I'm sure usually he does a pretty good job there. One year even he did better on the preseason rankings with only 16. So I'll have to, maybe tonight afterward I'll check that out. But we'll move on. 106. I'll bring my brackets. If you haven't downloaded, very nice brackets from IndianaMat, and they even have the rankings on there, so you can tell which the top matchups. The biggest matchup, I guess we'll start. See what Coach P has to say. Braden Curtis and Brendan Mattingly, first round 1 versus 3. That's going to be a great match. Coach
Pendowski, I just had, while I was going over this, I was just wondering what how do you coach up your kid when he has that Friday night match like that? I mean, how do you try to get in your head where it's it's going to be just a dog fight? All of them are dog fights, but this one is obviously. I mean, how do you coach up your kid through the week on something like this?
It depends. You get two different kids. If you draw the guy ranked number 1 in the state, some of them you pat him on the back and go, "Well, that draw sucks. You shouldn't have got 4th in the semi-state." Sometimes you pat a kid on the back and you go, "Hey, what do we got here?" It's no different than anything else. Look at your positives, look at your negatives, and hopefully you can find some film and break down his positives and break down his negatives. Keeping yourself in the game. I think, like I said, we drew Mason Paris last week off the scale at 120, and we went, "Son, you better learn a cement mixer real fast."
Right.
Try to trade doubles with this guy, you're going to lose. I think having some credibility with your kids helps you. I think that's the question you're asking me is, what do you do when you draw the guy ranked 1st in the state? Well, for Eric Bowman, you go, "Hey, give yourself a chance." And I pulled him aside after practice, and I said, "Here's what you're really going to do. Be a man. You might win, you might lose, but you're going to feel pretty good about yourself. You put a week in there and go try to make something happen." And in other parts of the equations, you look at your kid and you go, "Hey, is this a match we can win? Okay, what are situations we want to be in? How do we not get in them?" I think the any part with us, we look at freshmen and we go, "Okay, there's going to be 12,000 people watching. How are you going to deal with that?"
Right.
He's been on those big stages, though. I think he's a kid that's wrestled a long time. Obviously, I had him ranked 3rd. That's a tough semi-state, and he's been around. He's wrestled a long time. I mean, I don't know the kid. I mean, I think that mentally, I'm sure he's looking at one match at a time. I think that's a kid. Both those kids, if you line them up against any of the kids, are gonna just take it one at a time, and they can beat any of those kids.
That's the thing. I kind of looked overall at this 106 bracket. I saw 6'8" kids, I think, that have as good a shot as anyone. I just see it as even or even balanced a bracket as 106. You don't see clear favorites. You see a lot of matches that just and I don't see everyone obviously, but you compare scores of the stuff you guys got, and I just see it as a super balanced weight class.
I remember one year out at Newcastle when what's the South Dearborn kid that goes and wins it at 106?
Shannon Schaefer.
Yeah, Schaefer shows up, and everybody's looking at it and going, "Okay, here's the Parameridian kid, and here's the Warren Central kid, and yeah, okay, good job. You draw into the South Dearborn kid." Then the South Dearborn kid goes and knocks the piss out of everybody throughout the day. I think, especially in a weight class like this, I think if you look at the 95s, the other weight classes, we got guys that have competed at a high level nationally. That's a little bit different. And if you look at 106, there's a bunch of guys with some matches, but you don't really know. And then the other part is they're 106 pounders. If somebody grew an inch between October and now, you're going to be a hell of a lot bigger than the guy that's sitting next to you doesn't have an armpit hair yet. So I think this could be a way. I mean, who's the Rensselaer kid? I don't know. Nobody knows, but he might come in and be a monster, and nobody knows because I think all these guys comes out of pockets. Obviously, Avon and Brownsburg's wrestle each other a bazillion times. In our regional, we've seen Johnson twice, we've seen Black twice, we've seen Lowry once. All these people have wrestled each other, and I think you go out there, and like I said, we might find out the Rensselaer Bomber might come through and knock the dog piss out of everybody because nobody knew where he's from because he's in Rensselaer.
Yeah. No, this is, you're looking even, you look at Ray Rio, who has 6 losses, and I think probably 5 of them are to Campbell. It looks a little deceiving there. I think so.
7-loss kid, yeah.
Yeah. So you should, just looking at this whole weight class, there's so many kids that could come out, and as you said last week, they're the young guys, they're the babies, and it's whoever takes advantage of where they're at. There's a lot of nerves that first time at state, going out there in front of 12,000 fans, and everyone's there for that first match because everyone had to be there. They wanted to watch the parade. So everyone's there for that first match. So they, all eyes are on you. And I know a few years ago we had a kid wrestled Kayla Miracle first round, 106. Everyone's watching that match. You knew everyone's going to watch that match. And that was a lot of pressure on a kid. I don't care how old he is, and that's what you got to take, especially with guys. That's a big stage, and a lot of people haven't wrestled in front of 10,000 fans. So, any picks here, guys? I know Ed's probably gonna not say too much about his picks. Obviously, he has a little bit of a favorite here.
No, I've got a favorite of mine because we did our fantasy draft this week. And so my fantasy draft, I have Campbell. So I'm, pretty much hoping Campbell gets second.
That's good. That's good. What are you thinking, Chad? Any words?
I'm usually an East Chicago or a region homer here. I just was not thinking that the region's going to show up real well. I think I only got the Hickman kid winning first round. I like top bracket. I like Curtis, but like I said before, I mean Lowry, Rio. I mean Tolan's got 11 losses, but had a great semi-state. But I like Curtis in the top bracket, and I like Johnson in the bottom bracket as my guys to come out there. I actually have Johnson as my winner.
What do you have there, Mike?
I have Curtis winning. Sorry, Ed. Sleep on the Greyhounds. I got Lowry.
A fantasy team.
Lowry, Bo, Curtis, Rio, Campbell, Black, Hickman, Johnson. Curtis winning.
Yeah.
We got Campbell in the finals though, so good pick in the fantasy.
I mean, this is gonna be one that's when you're doing your pick'ems, this can make or break your pick'ems championship right here, because there's gonna be some. I mean, you have Bo versus Tolan, two unranked guys. Bo's had some pretty good wins, kind of under the radar. Tolan, coming on at the right at the right time. So, and then you have the bomber, the mystery bomber. That's
we know about it. I like Elijah Hickman. His brother wrestled for Rensselaer too.
His brother was probably a 3-time ticket rounder. His dad's the AD at Rensselaer. So
yeah,
I think he actually
Drew Hughes' stepsister. His older brother does. Yeah. So they've been giving me a little bit of stuff this week.
Does Eli train up at RWA? I know his older brother did.
I'm not too sure who all trains up there. It's tough. They had that post on the board today about where does everyone train and who's a academy kid and what makes an academy kid if you go there once a week, if you're training somewhere else. I don't know.
Right.
Moving on, 113.
Also, hold on real quick. Oh. Also, shout out to Colin Regan, first day qualifier for Frontier. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really good. Frontier High School's got about 250 kids total in the entire high school. So that's like 1/4 of one class at Carmel High School. So for a kid like that.
That's what I give mad love to people that do that. I remember up at Portage, we used to write letters to the administration of Hanover Central. And if you don't help me with numbers, there's 700 freshman males at Carmel.
Right.
Compared to a school that has 200 kids total. And for a guy to come in and figure something out and put himself in a position to qualify for the state tournament there, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's always positive. I mean, I know when I was at Garrett's 600 kids, and that's 700 boys. I just saw the enrollments, and Carmel had a couple hundred kids in their school.
And it's definitely
700 freshman boys.
Yeah, freshman boys.
Yeah.
It's a point of pride for me here at Culver. We've been lucky enough to have 2 state champions. I mean, that's unreal for, we got 250 to 300 kids and what we've had here. And we're in a little bit better position than Frontier because we can actually get up to South Bend to Elkhart. So, and when we put our schedule together, we can have our kids, face 8 to 10 good teams a year. Where Frontier, you're kind of locked in. You're 2 hours from any, you're an hour and a half from Indy. You're an hour and a half from the region, and you're, Lafayette, but Lafayette's not traditionally not super strong. So it's tough to get good competition down there.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, 113. Class of the field looks to be Asa Garcia, who's probably the favorite. He's not going to have an easy route, though, by any means. Vidaya from Roncalli in the semis. I know we're probably butchering names. That's why we have you on here, Ed, so you can help us out with names.
Vidua?
It's Vidya.
Okay, so pretty good. And Garcia has to go through possibly Corey Cavanaugh, returning 4th place finisher, just to get to the semifinal. So if he's going to defend his title, he's going to have a tough route, which I mean you always do at this this level. So, any comments on this there, Chad? What's your take on this weight?
What we saw up in the region, especially a minor upset there. Brock Peel, I think, he had. I think I talked earlier. I thought he had double-digit losses. He didn't. He's 32-5, I think. But still, I think a little bit of an upset. I think most people would have picked Corey Cavanaugh, being having all the state experience he's had. But that made for a quarterfinal match between Garcia and Cavanaugh, which. If I'm going to have a coach in my corner, Brad Harper's an awful good one to come up with an upset there. But Peel, I think, looked real good. Probably the best of the Portage kids in the semis and finals. Hunter Watts, I've seen a few times over the past couple of years. He's solid. Garcia, I think, and just looking at the results, Vidia, just looking at results, those two, I think maybe are a cut above, and they are in the same side. But as I go down my list, I went Watts, Rose, Peel, Skylar Turner, Vidia, Diaz, Garcia, and Kavanaugh.
No love for my boy Joe Just.
No Joe Just, no.
Ed, what's your take on this weight? Anyone? I know you've seen Vidia.
Like Medea, man. Like boo.
Yeah. I know you've seen him. I've not really seen him that much. Any take on him? I guess he's probably the one that, if you're not from the Indy area, you probably haven't seen him, and obviously he's pretty solid.
No, he's a lot more than solid. McClurg's done a great job down there getting those guys excited to wrestle. And Vidia's attacking, and he's attacking on top, and he's getting off the bottom. I think 113's a weight we're really going to find out what's going on with different pockets of the state. Those 13 pounders that all came out of that regional that came through. Let's find out how good they are when they put them against the rest of them. I want to see Petro Turner was a tough match in the county. Personally, I'm going with my fantasy league pick of Brock Peel. I coached his dad, and his mom did his student teaching for me in the classroom in Portage. And so I got to go with Peel, making it the finals and getting OW the tournament, but I'm not going to bet my money on that. The Garcia Cavanaugh, I think when you look at a guy like Garcia, he's winning big matches in the state tournament. So that's going to be difficult. I know that the Roncalli kids that came through the semi-state, they don't care who you are. They're coming after you. And so, that's pretty exciting. And so putting those starts together, Watts from Jimtown, I haven't seen. The only guy from that bracket I've seen around is Rose. But, looking at Watts, Peel, Turner, Petrov, is going to come out of that quarterfinal. I don't know very much about the Woodland guy. Garcia Cavanaugh is what I want to see. And then to get to Vidia and Saturday afternoon. And so this will be a fun weight class to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it, especially that first round match. Mike, what's your take here?
Just if you split it into semis, on the bottom you have 2, 17-8, 1, 18-4. And it just seems like that's kind of flooded the other side. I have it Watts. I thought Watts looked really good. He's wrestled Cavanaugh a couple times. Gavin Rose, Peel, Turner. That Turner-Peel match is going to be interesting. I know that's kind of been Turner's tough round is that quarterfinal. He's lost there every year, right?
I think
He's
so.
never made it past that corner.
Yeah.
So he's been there. He's been on the cusp. I know last year he gave Cummins a tough match in that round, but
the Turner Petro match was 6-4 in the MIC.
Which the Turner what?
Turner Petro from Center Road.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a match.
Yeah.
I know Just wrestled him at the Al Smith, and Just was up like about 3 points, and then all of a sudden Petro just turned it on in the third period and made it. It was like end up being a 1 point match. It was getting. He's pretty tough, and he has a pretty good motor on him. So
that Gavin Rose, Seth Horty should be good too. It's 7-9. Then Vidia.
Also, another small school shout out there that I think, Diaz from Wheeler. Last year was the first year state qualifier for that school, and I have him winning here and being their first state placer this year. And Wheeler's a tiny, not tiny. They've been growing. They're kind of a Valpo suburb up there, and but 400 or 500 kids. But the program's what, like 5 years old, maybe tops.
Yeah, I think like 4 years old. Yeah, I mean Central Noble's a small school also, so
Yeah.
a couple of small schools getting at it Friday night. I have Asa Kavanaugh, and then I have Asa to the finals. I mean, I haven't seen Vidia, but
Yeah,
I just thought Asa, even when he wrestled Tell, I thought he kind of, even though it was a 3-1 match, I thought he really controlled it. I think that he's been on a roll. But I know that Alec's been on the scene for a long time. I know that he has a lot of ISWA stuff, and he's been really tough as a kid. So I wouldn't be shocked if he won there.
Yeah, I go with the county. Hashtag the county.
Yeah, I know people are giving Chris a hard time on there. I think Chris is a really good guy too.
Yeah. Moving up, 120. This one's gonna be a fun one. Did pretty good on the rankings. Your boy Braxton Alexander punched his ticket. You were high on him.
Yep.
Should have had him ranked. You had him there. I'll start with you, Mike. Any comments, just overview, any matches you're watching, then kind of some of your picks?
Yeah, I think this is we did have Braxton Alexander in and out of the rankings. I think he fell out of the last rankings. Trevor Regal, we had ranked early on too. He took some losses early, but Hayden Rooks has been on fire. I mean, he's was on fire at Dallas Smith. He lost to Triana there. That kid's ridiculous. I really like that kid. I'm looking forward to this point at 5 and 6. Both those guys were state qualifiers last year. I had Pointer to the finals last year, and then he lost to Mejia. Mejia went to the finals. I kind of have it similarly. I haven't seen Tice. How you said, Ed?
Right.
Frazee?
It's Free G.
Freegee. So, yeah.
Ed, is he related to the old Brownsburg coach?
My cousins, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that.
But I know the son of the old Brownsburg coach actually coaches up by Mechaniqua in the Kokomo area.
Yep.
The football coach and wrestling. He's just a wrestling coach now. I figured it was all the same family.
Then I got Mills over Nori, and then Mejia Demean will be a good one. Nice little 4-Wayne matchup. When Demean went over to Penn, hopefully he's good to go. I know he took some slams. He defaulted all the way to 4th. Moscone and Sonny, and then I got Triana. I have Triana to the finals against Rooks.
Hey, I think what stood out to me was Freegee ranked 18th and being a Newcastle champ. Is he kind of what you were talking about, Ed, earlier? Just not worried about rankings, not worrying about who's in front of him. It sounds like that's kind of the way he wrestled last weekend.
No, I think, like I said, McClurdy's coached that crew up, and Vidia and Freegee, and the whole team is wrestling with just a bunch of confidence. They're walking out of the mat expecting to beat people. And Freegee, I think he beat Near for the first time in the regional, and then I didn't see the match up close, but I know that he pinned him, and I know it wasn't he was losing and pinned him. And so, that stuff, just keep the snowball rolling downhill, going 100 miles an hour. I want to see him and Pointer. Like I said, especially this is the weight, especially where you look at how many, Freegee being down to weight with how many times Perry sees Greenfield Central, sees Roncalli, and all those guys that come through. I want to see, Freegee and Pointer. I want to see, those guys come through. I think what I want to watch in the morning is Near Moscone. That's just an Ed Pendowski favorite of a guy that's going to slug you, and then the slick assassin. And if you make a mistake, he's going to pin you, or he's definitely going to score. And those are entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I had Freegee and Pointer as my Saturday morning top match here in this weight class too. Out of the top of Triana and Mills, probably in the semis. That's going to be a whale of a match if that's the way it works out. And then I've actually got Pointer and Rooks, and then Rooks and Mills in the finals. But geez, I mean, I think 4 or 5 guys here all have, are pretty close.
I think my prediction in this weight class is one group is going to be way better than the rest.
One pocket.
Yep, I'm going to go with Triana in the finals against Pointer, or it's going to be, Free G in the finals against Near. And I think that's what we'll know after the first round Friday night. We're going to go, okay, are these guys the real deal? I mean, what about Mills? How many losses does Mills have in his career?
Still probably under 10.
Right. And so, I mean, here's a guy that's, been making a run walking into Banker's Life for his third time now, thinking, man, I'm going to go win. And he's got to go, Nori to how do you say the Elkhart guy's name, Joe?
Mejia.
No, to get to Mejia, to get to Moscone, to get to somebody on the other side. This is a competitive weight class. And like I said, I think I'm going to read this one and go, okay, the Evansville semi-state 20s were better than everybody else's. And I thought the Maryville guys were this, or I thought the Newcastle guys were this, or, I think Mejia last year kind of surprised you. You go, who the hell's that guy? And you go, okay, he's the guy that, won this match and won this match. And that's the way I look at this way. I'm going to go first through four, all going to come from the same semi-state.
Yeah.
Except for I have, I got Mejia in my bracket. Mejia's going to win on my fantasy team. And so then the rest of them are all going to be from the same semi-state.
so basically, are you basing your picks on your fantasy team?
Absolutely.
I'm do this for a living, man.
That's why it's called a fantasy.
You want me to have an opinion here? I'm going to say one semi-state dominates.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, yeah. The Evansville semi-state has some hammers, so it's always gonna. I mean, Rooks and Mills are pretty tough, and they're not gonna have any. Looks like Rooks is set up fairly well, but at the same time, you can't overlook Alexander Rooks. I mean, obviously we know Rooks is legit, has 2 losses on his career. So
I was all over the Wawasee guys. Braxton Alexander, he's kind of like Ed was talking about, those Roncalli guys. I don't think he cares who he's wrestling. He's going to wrestle his high energy, coming after you, looking to score all the time. He's a fun kid to watch. So you can catch a kid that is just trying to play it safe to get to the semis. If you're going balls out, pedal to the metal.
To Pointer in the semis. Pointer was ahead and kind of got head loop. He got a little chin whip city.
Yeah.
And then so Rex Alexander come at you 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Moving up, we're going to 126. This is one that there's a lot of. I mean, we had a couple semi-states where the finals were basically in the semis, and we did get a fun Friday night match. Colton Cummings, Alex White, first round. That's going to be ugly. Alec White. This weight class is just going to be loaded from top to bottom. Had a couple minor, not really upsets or minor upsets. We knew they were going to be tough matches. De La Pena beat Cummings at semi-state, and then Rooks got his first win over Mulkey at semi-state, both in the semifinals. So that was, mildly surprising. It wasn't, we knew those were going to be close matches. So, Cummings coming away, looking for his third title. No easy route here. The other interesting matchup is Matt Gibson versus Matt Lee. You don't want to run into a Lee for Friday night at Banker's Life. I think that's going to be a crazy match. Lee can put it on, and he's going to be hard to be denied a win there. So, Ed, we'll let you start here. What's your take on this weight?
First of all, going off my fantasy team,
Yes.
taking De La Pena.
Ooh, going some region love.
I did a pretty hardcore region on my fantasy team, talking trash to young Greyhound lads. I use no swear words, though, if anybody from the administration of Carmel is listening.
Yes.
I think, the Cummings-White match, I don't know very much about that. I don't think White's very happy with his performance. I don't think he's happy with his performance on the day, on the whole day at the semi-state, and hopefully he can get stuff better and go back to the Alec White we all know and love. I know just technically and body-wise, I want to see Slivka Dembowski. Both guys are built the same. both of them just sneaky, going to keep wrestling. Like I said, after what I saw last week from the Irish, I'm not going to bet against them. But that one's going to be a fun one to watch. I think De La Pena, Mulkey in the semis on the bottom is going to be a good time. Who comes out of that quarterfinal bracket with a Greyhound in it, we never know. Gibson, Lee, Cummings, White. But Cummings has 2 losses. So, that's going to be a tough one coming out. If White's not wrestling any better, Cummings, is going to be in a good spot. Overall champion, I'm going to go with De La Pena. And that's not because of the team. I know that Maldonado will get these guys going, and they're pretty jacked about what he did last year. And I think this is the stage that Pirates are going to do well in. And if I got to pick my weight, that I always tell our kids that the state tournament's going to end, and you're going to hear it on the escalator 5 times. They're going to say, "I can't believe this guy won." Well, I'm voting De La Pena here.
Yeah.
Journey's going to be him.
Yeah, definitely. What's your take here, Chad?
Kind of bouncing off what Ed said there. Michael De La Pena, I've kind of followed him in the region here for 4 years, and he's one of those that you can use as an example. He, even with the uncle and the stepdad, I guess, the Maldonados, he was just a very good. He was a good wrestler his freshman year, but he was not a top 5. A lot of these lightweight guys, they come in and they are, they've got all the hype, all the recognition. Michael De La Pena is not one of those. He has improved every year to get to where he's at, where he's now a state title contender. And like I said, I can use that kid for an example that you don't have to have 15 ISWA state titles to end up being a state champion or being in the mix. So kind of shout out to him and just the hard work that he's done. On the other hand, I don't have I've got him. I've got him to the semis, but then I've got Mulkey beating Slivka. But I think that's going to be a hell of a Saturday morning match. In the bottom bracket, I got Mulkey getting to the finals out of the bottom. Then the top, I got Gimson beating Matt Lee. I like the Gimson brothers. I think I made a post about those two taking that next step from good to very good. Great wrestlers. And then Colton Cummings, Rooks, and Jurdy there in the top. Got Rooks coming through that. I think just those Columbus East guys, all those lightweight guys are just rocking and rolling now. And Rooks and Bulky in the finals, and Bulky championship is what my picks go. On to you, Mike.
Looks like I did pretty well doing the rankings on this one.
Right. I was going to say, 2 guys, and Reese Rodriguez probably is one of the top 16 guys. So
yeah,
right now
we dropped him out of the rankings after he lost to Jeffrey Harper from Penn. I do the rankings by myself because. Yeah, kind of the same thing. A lot of tough guys. Split pretty well. Cummings and De La Pena was a really good match at the semi-state. I thought Cummings let De La Pena wrestle at his pace, and I think a lot of times if you let someone else control the pace of the match that you're going to wrestle, it's not really going to go your ways. Not a lot of guys can adapt to that. And if you wrestle Michael De La Pena's pace, it's going to be tough to beat him. You guys got a gas tank. He's all offense. The one I circled, and I'm kind of curtailing off Ed also, Slivka and Dembowski is going to be a really good matchup. Ian, I know is going to be prepared, and I know that he can scramble out of this world. He's had some really tough matches with Cummings and De La Pena. And I know Slivka can – if it's Slivka and Mulkey, that's a stylistic matchup and kind of talk about pace, where if Slivka gets on top of you, that gets a boa constrictor, man. He's really good on top. If you let him slow it down and he takes you to deep water, it's going to be tough. I have it Cummings and De La Pena in the finals. Both pretty good friends. I don't, if that can happen, I hope that those guys. What's up?
Do boa constrictors live in the water? Don't they live in a tree?
I've seen them in the water.
Anacondas.
Anaconda thing.
IndianaMat guys.
Really, I think
biology.
Science teacher.
Trains and coal.
There's 4 or 5 guys here I think that can win this weight.
Yeah, I think it's one of the deepest weights in the entire field this weekend. Maybe the deepest.
Yeah, I mean, top to bottom, there's you can even look at Slivka, who's had a pretty good season, and he's going to have the practice partners that he can battle with any of these guys, and I mean, he could be kind of a spoiler, even though he's coming in with only 3 losses.
Yeah.
So moving up, 132, Mike's best weight in the rankings. He got 15 of 16. The only one he did not get was my boy Austin Moore. I told you about him.
Shout out to Austin Moore. I was actually giving Austin Moore a hard time too. No lie.
10 miles north of my alma mater.
Yes. That's pretty good getting 15 out of 16, even with, that's with the rankings locked. So we have a lot of ranked matchups here. First round should be some, you got Bailey and Wrights on the same half bracket. So that's going to be, that one would be what many people think are going to be the finals match. So
versus 2. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 versus 2 there. Up top, number 4, 5 are there. So
3 is also in the bottom bracket too.
Yeah, 3.
Luigs.
Yeah, that's gonna Luigs and Gimson, another modern day and
Jimtown
matchup. They're gonna have their duel. That's gonna be a good one. Luigs placed her 2 years ago, placed 6th, so he's gonna be back. Then there's just some ugly draws here. You got 1, 14, 3, and 6 in the same quarter bracket. So this is gonna be a fun one. Christian Hunt looked good at Fort Wayne. Looks solid. He stays in good position. Hard to he's a prototypical Yorktown wrestler. Going to have their their things they're good at, and they're going to be really good at them. And stays in good position. And you're going to make a mistake, they're going to capitalize on it. Him and Tolan or Smiley and Tolan first round is going to be a good one. And then the winner gets Hunt. That's a pretty big match right there. Quarter bracket. That's pretty much a pick 'em. So we'll let you start here, Chad.
Yeah, this is just loaded here. I do think just again when you compare scores, you look at things. I think Jeremiah Wrights and Braden Bailey have separated themselves from the rest of the field here. And you can't say that 100%, but those two look like the 2 best kids. Jeremiah looked awesome. I thought he maybe been the most impressive kid I saw up at East Chicago. Just going through a guy like Manzona Bryant from Culver, but I like Jeremiah in the bottom bracket, and coming out of the top, I like Christian Hunt. But that Ethan Smiley match, that's the one I circled as the top quarter bracket. I've got, and then you got another Columbus East guy. If he could get it, he's got a somewhat favorable draw to get to the semis. That's going to score some points for the Olympians there. In their quest to finish in the money. But like I said, this is kind of a shame because I do think that Wrights and Bailey are the 2 best kids in the bracket. And they're going to have to meet in the semifinals.
Have I been saying it wrong, or are you guys saying it wrong? Because I thought it was Reitz.
I think it's Reitz.
Okay.
Whenever I see E and I and E, I always pronounce the second vowel is what I pronounce. So if it's I pronounce it Wrights, but Reitz, either way,
that's German. I took German. That's how it's the second one.
Yeah, I did too. I'm with you.
That's how I've always pronounced it. Ed, what's your take here?
I think Reitz, Bailey, and Luigs on the bottom are pretty good. I think wrestling wise, Reitz is the best wrestler. Bailey's the best scrambler, and Luigs is nasty on the mat. So, that who's going to come out of that is going to be a lot of fun. Coming out of the top half of the bracket, Smiley's got a lot of wrestling, but Talon's hard to score points on, and the Yorktown kids don't make mistakes. I really like that quarterfinal bracket. Probably just taking Smiley because I'm closer to them than anybody else. On the top half of the bracket, I want to see Bryant wrestle. I told the story earlier about Schaefer coming through and beating everybody in the semi-state 2 years ago as a 6-pounder. So, he's been to the state tournament. That's an experience. I think coming through that with the Columbus East guy had a setback last year in the semi-state, and so this is a fun match to watch. Coming out of the bottom, Bailey and Reitz is going to be fun to watch. I think the league's coming in there for a chance to be a spoiler is exciting because, like I said, he's dangerous in uncomfortable spots, and he's going to make you get in them. I think Reitz's fundamental stuff on the mat is going to give him problems. Bailey, Reitz, I don't know. I'd almost feel bad for Bailey for losing in the semifinals again. But the task is pretty tough. And I think Smiley making the finals in the top half of the bracket, getting a chance to wrestle Reitz would be my prediction.
Who was your favorite player?
My fantasy pick, I have Luiz. I felt good about getting him in like my 10th pick.
Nice.
He could play spoiler. He could also lose Friday night. That's but that's a pretty solid pick there because he could make the semis and do some damage. He's definitely tough and he's battle tested. Mike, what?
It's gonna be an exciting match. Luiz and Gimson. Those guys like to score.
Yeah.
Gimson was excited. Al Smith. Tough. This is one that you really want to see under the lights. You want both these guys to be showcased. You got 3 Division I wrestlers in here right now. Guys that have already committed. Jeremiah and Bailey. I mean, they've kind of mirrored each other. Both have really good careers. 2 good careers coming to an end. Kind of what Ed said. You feel bad for Bailey if he doesn't make the finals. Jeremiah has been rolling through people. That Manzona match was really good at the semi-state. I don't know how good Manzona is. I've only seen him twice. I know he's a freshman state qualifier. Him and Schaefer Friday night would be good. He was on his back for a little bit. He got rough with Jeremiah. I know he's all beat up. But would you guys pick Reitz to go to the finals?
I did out of the bottom.
I'll take Bailey then. I'll take the opposite of you.
Oh, it's spiting you.
Yeah, that's when you want to see under the lights, and that's kind of that idea of the best kid will win either way. I don't like that. I think that when you get under the lights at Banker's Life, it's a showcase of your career. It's an amazing thing. You want to see that. That's the showcase match. If I was drawing one, I want to see that under the lights. I'm glad they're not running 4 semis at state because I would not want to see that there.
Right.
Yeah.
Jack Tolan, Smiley would be really good. Tolan looked the healthiest I've seen him all year. I know he was beat up early on. If Chesterton wants to win this thing, they're going to have both Tolans do well. And if Jack could, get on a roll, he could be in the finals.
Yeah, he definitely has a navigatable path there. I mean, that whole half bracket it's going to be whoever shows up to wrestle Friday and Saturday.
If Jack Tolan wins that Friday night match, I can see it being in the finals. I think that he has a style that kind of matches up with Smiley and Hunt. Combast, obviously, is really tough.
I've got Hunt coming out of the bracket, but he beat Manzona by 1 point, wasn't it, at Team State? So it's not like there's any real separation there between.
And now you're getting to that will he beat this guy? Because I was real high on Manzona, and then he beat Risner 4-3 at the regional, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's one of those ones. Like I said, I just wish that Bailey Reitz was under the lights, but that's Indiana. That's how we do it. Either one of those guys is my pick. Whoever wins that semifinal is the pick to win the title. And then whoever loses that semifinal will be my pick to get third.
Yeah. I know we got a little bit of love from Josh Lowe from IndianaMat on Twitter. He was ranting and raving about our system. He was more ranting about 220 where you have Larson and Paris on the same side, but that's the same thing right there. I know in Ohio they do have kind of a pseudo seeding where if you're, I want to say top 4, top 5, I don't know what the whole thing is, but if you're what would be their district champ, if the district champs have all placed or whatever, they'll separate them kind of. So, try to help you get the more favorable matchup in the finals. Obviously, it might not always be that way, but it's always.
Joe, who makes that decision? Is there some wrestling people at the state level that?
I think it's pretty well standard that it's based from what I've heard. If there's if there's a first, a second, and a third, to be 1, 2, 3. Basically, they'd put the 2 and the 3 on the same side. I don't know the exact process, but so I don't know what it would mean if there's 2 seconds and a first, or 2 seconds and a third, who gets the pseudo 1 seed or whatever. But I just know I've seen it and I've heard about it. I just don't know the whole logistics of it. So it would be, it'd be nice, but then that'd take a lot of drama out of the brackets coming out on Sunday,
Yeah, good. Bailey got 5 losses for his career. Paul Conrath in the semis, Sawyer Miller in the semis, Gage Torres in the semis, and Dak Donathan, who's number 2 in the country from Ohio.
Yeah.
Twice. He lost to him twice. 5 losses for his career right now.
That's pretty impressive. Moving on, 138. This is a bracket buster one too. Everyone's looking for Rumpf and Black, but you can't overlook guys like Tristan Summer, who's had a pretty good season. Him and Mello, he dealt Mello his only loss. Could beat in the semis there. Summer and Rumpf on Saturday morning is gonna be a fun one. That's gonna be some fireworks there. Black. Looks like the better one in the bottom half. Eric Heastand from Yorktown's looking pretty solid this year. He's wrestled about 16 weight classes. I think the only weight class he didn't wrestle was 106 this year.
I think he had a really good coach last year.
Any comments on that, Ed?
Good looking.
Good looking coach?
Good looking.
Actually, I heard that's a lie.
So a lot of interesting, this weight class looks very top heavy with the top guys. Could be
3 and 4, or no, 2, 3, and 4 are all on top.
Yeah. So we'll let Ed start out here. What's your takes on 38?
Well, just put it through your filter because Rumpf is on my fantasy team.
Okay.
So I got Rumpf winning and getting OW. No, that top bracket, let's see how that's all going to play out. I think whenever you compare the Irish, I said this when I was up in Northwest Indiana. You compare Cathedral's team at the Trikoff compared to the state tournament, you're forgetting that those guys are playing football on Thanksgiving. The loss that Mello has to Selmer, one, doesn't make me think so much of Mello, but if that's my only information that I have on Selmer, I got to feel good about Rumpf being able to come through that. If the Indians can have Rumpf ready to go, the bracket underneath that, Mello looks in a good spot to make the semifinals. Brendan Black has got so much mat sense and so much piss and vinegar in him. He's going to be pretty tough to get through. Conley's got state experience, man. Sarah's been in some big matches, but I don't think it's Brendan Black well. And then the bottom half of the bracket with Heasted and Shonaghy, if those guys wrestle in the quarters, that one's a tough one to come through. I'm gonna, just picking one, I'm gonna go with Heasted to make the semis. I think the finals, I want to see Rumpf and Mello again, because is when I go, wait a minute, you can't count the Irish at the Trikoff because that's Mello's loss, but it's also one of Rumpf's losses to Mello at the Trikoff. And so, I think with the lack of mat time that Rumpf has had, combined with this athleticism, I want to see that match in the semis with Rumpf and Mello. That's going to be a fun one to watch. I know watching Zach wrestle last weekend, just like I said, they're looking really, really good. If the Irish stay together, I'm going to take Mello on that one. And Mello and Black in the finals, I think it's going to be a tough one for Mello to try to answer with Black in the way that he can wrestle on the mat to make things difficult for Mello. So I'd probably take Black through that one.
Sounds good. Mike, what's your take here?
Once he can for my fantasy team.
That was a day at the Trikoff. Selmer lost to Rumpf in rideouts, which I was shocked. I didn't even know that Rumpf could ride. I thought he was a takedown machine. He rode him for the 30 seconds and won. Selmer beat Mello, and then Mello turned around and pinned Rumpf. So I think that Rumpf and Mello's wrestled a couple times, and Mello's had his number. I won't sleep on Graham Calhoun. I was really impressed with him this weekend. I know he's been around forever. He stays in good position. He's tough to score on. So I have Mello on the top side. Brendan has been wrestling great. Like he can wrestle you in almost anywhere. He's really good on the mat. He's good on top. He's funky on bottom. He can scramble. He can take you down. So it's, not having a Lee in his weight kind of helps him out. I think that I got Brendan in the finals. I have him over Conley, and I have him over Heatstand in the semis, and I have Heatstand over
Sergey?
No, Shanagi.
Oh, Shanagi from Columbus East. Okay.
That's how Triple B said to say it, right? Shanagi.
Yes, Shanagi.
Get my name game strong. I don't like it. Give me a hard time.
Chad, what are you thinking here? I mean, I know I've seen Black's been a 2-time gorilla. Very fun to watch. He's not one to win a match 2-1. He's going to make it fun, and he can get, like Coach Podolsky said, he'll attack you from every position possible. So he's looking to score, which is always fun to watch. So need more guys that aren't afraid to score.
I just hope we keep getting the same dynamic of like Brendan Black, Tyler Triana, like Brendan Cosgrove, Eric Galka, like the same styles of two guys on their team that are really tough.
Right. Is that who do you think that's attributable to anyone on staff there, Mike, or do you think that's just
no? Because Ramos was there, but those guys were overtime kids. I think they kind of developed their own style. No, Cosgrove isn't coaching this year, and Galka's not coaching.
Okay.
But they kind of have the same like funky style. Brendan was obviously a lot more funkier than Brendan.
Right.
Black and Cosgrove, they're both funkier wrestlers, but both out there loving it, having a good time. These kids are pushing him. They love that. Like, he's smiling when he's getting pushed. I would love to see Rumpf and Black in the finals because those guys, I think, generally don't like each other. Brendan really kind of – that was the one I was really shocked. I was like, okay, maybe these guys really were sick because Brendan really poured it on Rumpf this last week. He ended up attacking him. I think he looked up at the clock with like a minute left. It was like, I only need 2, and then turned him. So it definitely wasn't the Chris Rumpf everyone got to see on the video that was posted on Twitter where he was just in and out so fast. Or maybe Hober found something in the tape and figured something out where they were lacking.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was going to be unique here. You had the lifetime region guy, Mike there. I figured he'd pick Rumpf. I figured the legendary former Portage coach would pick Rumpf, and they both picked Mello. I thought I was going to be, the oddball and be able and pick Mello to the finals. And
you're taking Graham Calhoun from Plymouth to the finals, right?
My county, yeah, Marshall County. That's right. But I went with Mello in the top 2. I think that first one, I don't think Rumpf was right. I don't think those Portage coaches, those guys aren't going to make excuses, whether it's the flu, whether it's what. And I think that, sometimes even, you come off the flu, you still aren't 100%. Selmer's going to wrestle, like you said, what they wrestle 10 minutes in their match before. That's gonna take some starch out of you, and that might be just enough for Mello to get him in the semis. Calhoun, he's a future. Keep an eye on him. He's a guy who might be in the semis next year. Maybe wrestle under the lights in his career. He's a good one. I think Black dominates the bottom half of the Avon kid. I've not seen, honestly, so I don't know how that'll go Saturday morning. But I'm kind of with Mike. Those Hobart guys, I like the way they get after it. So I've got Black in the bottom, Mello in the top with Selmer and Heaston wrestling for 3rd and 4th.
Yep, sounds good. Definitely. I mean, this one's going to have a lot of fireworks, and I'm looking forward to the Selmer Rumpf match. I think that'll be a great match, and it could be pretty interesting to watch, and definitely some great rematches.
I'm going to say that the guys from the South are talking Selmer up, so I want to see him.
I like Selmer. He's really tough on his feet. He's slick. Him and Rumpf is like the right mix that you want to see.
Yeah.
Mello likes to throw a little bit too. Mello hit him with a headlock hit Rumpf with a headlock at the Trikoff. Maybe him and Brendan would have been a nice one if we could have seeded that up and split those 4. But that's how we do it.
Moving on, 145. This is one where you have a fun quarter bracket of 1, 2, and 5, and then everything else is fairly well even. Your Brayton Lee, and then gets the winner of Arnie versus McIntosh. That's an ugly quarter bracket. I mean, you knew when you saw Casper lost, you knew that could happen, and that's when I think Portage, if they wrestle well, they could be in a title run for a trophy, first or second, and knocking off Brownsburg right there would be huge. Yeah, Crary over McIntosh last week was a pretty, good win for him. It looks like he's peaking at the right time, put himself on the right side of the bracket, and that whole bottom half is going to be, that's a crapshoot, and Crary looks to be the head of the class down there.
Yeah, you got 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 all in the bottom half of the bracket. So a lot of guys that are right there on the verge.
Yeah. We'll let Ed, I guess you can probably start this one.
This one's yucky. The way the brackets are set up, I think the McIntosh Lee match tomorrow morning is going to be one to see. I don't know Stroud from Elkhart Central, and so picking a guy through there, Colzer's got a whole bunch of experience and can well ever keep the streak going through there. I don't know. I think looking at partners and competition and stuff like that, that's a pick 'em. If I got to take one, I'd take Colza to make the semifinals. On the bottom, Crary's been around forever. Rust has a ton of match time. Coyle and those guys, I'm assuming they've wrestled somewhere. What they've done against each other, I don't know. I know Coyle's coming from our conference, he's a pretty good kid, and I think he's wrestled Graves close a bunch of times in the finals. In the bottom bracket, for the freshman winner is in a good spot to get a whole bunch of mat experience to make the semifinals the way the cards lined up there. If you look at which are 29 losses between the three guys that he shares the bracket with. And so you get to Banker's Life and see 29 losses in the quarterfinals. You're having a good day. Seeing the sophomore get through there to get the match with, Crary's on a win streak. So, the winner, Crary on the bottom half. McIntosh Lee, if they can make that, if Portage can find a way to make that close to get to a minute left and it's within a takedown on your feet, I think that should be fun. If Lee can blow it up and, get a couple takedown lead, that show will end. But seeing Lee's match in the finals against, probably Crary, looking at the way the bracket's drawn up, and I think we could see a pretty dominant match by Lee in the finals.
Yeah, he got Tech last year, so he's going to probably – his toughest match might be on Saturday morning. So, Mike, what's your take here?
I thought just of the matchup of Crary and McIntosh, I thought Crary did a really good job adjusting from the week before. They figured something out because Crary usually wrestles a lot like Kyle Ersman, but he varied up his takedowns and he looked really tough. I think he put himself in a good position, but that Kane Russ Logan Coyle match is going to be a dogfight Friday night. Logan Coyle is obviously wrestled 52 a lot of the season. He's always been really tough. Kane Rust. I have one of the guys I've been sleeping on the whole year, and I feel terrible because I really like this kid. I thought he's always been tough. He's been there. He's been in the rankings for 4 years. Is Boone Welliver. He's 40-0, and I don't even feel like we're even talking about him. I think Boone's really tough. I got Boone to the semis over Colza. I have McIntosh over Arnie. It was 5-3 at Team State. McIntosh and Lee. I have Lee. I just think he's just so tough, man. He's really probably one of the toughest kids in the state. I have Crary on the bottom. I have winner to the semis. Crary over winner, Lee over Crary. But Crary's kind of had some trouble in that semifinal or that quarterfinal match too. I don't know if he's ever made it past that. I think he was 2-time 5th placer and then lost Friday night last year to Rassler.
Yeah, definitely. Chad, what's your take here?
I like Welliver. I'm going with the Elkhart Central guys. Stroud up top over Colza, Lee, and McIntosh. Kind of like with Mike. I think he's one of the top 3 guys probably in the state right now. Mason Paris, Jeremiah Reitz and Lee are kind of my guys that I think maybe pound for pound I would go with right now. I like Lee over McIntosh. I just think there's too much offense, and he'll be coached up. There's enough film out there of Casper. I think that Brayton will find a way to score there. Bottom half of the bracket, Prairie. Like I said, he did not have a good Al Smith, but then has come on, had a great postseason run here. I think the winner, the 1-4 match there, the bottom bracket winner, and Traficante is one to keep an eye on. 7 versus 10. Traficante, those Crown Point guys. Like you guys talked about Yorktown, they'll stay in great position. You're going to have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. And you get a freshman under the light or on the big stage. That's a possible 4-over-1 right there, I think. And then so I've got Prairie out of the bottom and Lee out of the top, and then like Mike said, 40-0 seems like his name's been around forever there at Southmont. I think his dad might be a former coach there at Southmont or a coach right now. So a lot of mat time, I'm sure, right there. And then I've got winner is also to the semis and getting 4th. Hey, you'll leave.
Okay. So Ed just left. Where'd he go?
Yeah, to take care of family stuff, he said.
Yeah.
No, I didn't leave. The pumpkin bread's done.
Nice.
Halfway done.
Yeah,
we're halfway
bread
done.
or monkey bread?
Take a break for pumpkin bread.
I love pumpkin bread.
Yeah. Hopefully, you'll bring some tomorrow night.
Hospitality room.
Yeah. 145 kind of seems like a, pretty much one horse race. Brayton Lee's definitely pretty good. Like you said, one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the state, let alone, he's mentioned in, one of the best in the country, and he's fun to watch. He gets after it. So, should be some fireworks. He's going to put some points on the board, and he's not going to sit there and ride someone and win 1-0. That's for sure. If he does, I'll be very surprised.
He sent us his stats. He has like 280 takedowns and 232 escapes. Giving up
30 escapes.
Yeah. If you want to get the escape record at your school, just wrestle Brayton Lee like 3 or 4 times.
That's not a good accomplishment out of the escape record at Calumet. No?
Yes.
Wrestle circus too much.
Yeah.
No, my brother wrestled Certus all the time. He might have broke it. No, I felt like Eric Keith, he used to beat me 30-15 every time.
Didn't your brother have like 7 or 8 losses to Certus, something like that?
More than that, we'd wrestle. This is off topic. We'd wrestle he'd see him at the Harvest in a duel. We used to do the conference individual, the conference team. We used to do a duel with them, and then we used to have them in a sectional and regional.
How far away did you live from him? Because isn't Griffith right over the bridge from Calumet?
We don't even have a bridge. There's Colfax, and if you live on the right side of Colfax, you're poor, and if you live on the left side of Colfax, you're less poor.
Nice.
That's how the region works, man. We're right on top of each other.
Yes.
I remember a Griffith kid told me I was a poor kid one time. I was like, what? Like, you guys really live – I could throw a baseball to your house.
That's the region for you.
We all eat at Sharks.
Yeah. They don't eat sharks. That came later on.
Did it?
Now you got to keep down the down low. You don't let no one know about a sharks.
That was my go-to when I went up to the Trikoff and walk across the street, watch the homeless guys sitting in there and get my wings.
Did you hit him with the lemon pepper?
I've not had the lemon pepper. I only had the regular.
Oh, man. Chad, you haven't even lived, bro.
No.
If you ain't hitting those wings with the lemon pepper, man, you should have talked to those homeless guys. They'll let you know.
Nice.
Struck up a conversation.
Yeah, hey, they're all friendly usually.
Moving on to our halftime show of talking about sharks and lemon pepper wings. 152, another fun weight class. This one, you have Joe Lee, who's the class of the field looks like, but there's a lot of other fun matches to look forward to. You got guys like Kenny Kern and Kyle Hatcher who aren't afraid to put points on the board. They're fun to watch. They get after it. You got Noah Warren, who's tough as nails. It looks like everyone's separated. I mean, almost if you could seed it, you would almost have pretty close to seeded it, just like how the bracket's laid out. So the IHSA is looking at us and laughing because we said, hey, it looks pretty good. Mike, how do you see this one falling?
I think I did a good job ranking this one too.
Okay. Yeah, you got 14. It looks like.
I know Joe Lee's the favorite, and I have Joe Lee as the champion. So before I go any further, I'll just say that there's some guys in here that can give some interesting matches because there's some guys that do some things that they can put points up. Like you said, Kyle Hatch puts points up. Weimer and Nanengard would be a good one Friday night. Kenny Kern puts up points. Cassius Breathitt and Jacob Clark would be a good one Friday night. Those guys are going to put up points. Noah Warren likes to scramble. Austin Bethel has a win over him. Noah Lamore likes to scramble. This is going to be a lot of really exciting matchups where I think a lot of matchups can go either way. I haven't seen Bethel this year. Sounds like they were giving him a hard time on the board. I know Noah Lamore has been in the mix. He's obviously really solid. He had some tough ones. I have Joe Lee to the finals, Hatch, Kern, Noah Warren to the semis.
Ed, what's your take on this weight?
I like Hatch coming out of the top half of the bracket. His ability to battle and score from scrambles and put you in a spot. I really like watching Hatch wrestle. I've known the Lees for a long time, and anytime you get to watch those compete is fun. And I think Joe, watching him, get enjoyment out of slugging people. And he's a guy that just doesn't stop wrestling. I think, Kern and Breathitt from South Bend, I think that's going to be one to watch. I've only seen Kern a couple of times, and I know he's so darn tough on top. And then, Bethel Warren coming out of the bottom. Noah's got a state medal in his house hanging on the wall. And, Bethel's got wins over some real good people. That one's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Coming out of the bottom. I think my first thought when I look at this bracket is that Evansville semi-state's pretty good. And so I think making the finals, I want to, if I got to pick somebody, Bethel with, an insane scramble, 5-point move at the end of a match to win is Bethel coming through on that one. Kern Bethel in the semis, I think I got to go crazy predictions. I'm going to go Kern gets a takedown and rides him for 5.5 minutes, and Bethel creates a scramble and catches him on his back. And Joe Lee body slams everybody all the way through the tournament. Is my winner.
I look at Joe Lee as kind of a bull in a china shop sometimes, the way he wrestles. He just goes after it and, just bullet. He runs over. He's going to try to run over you. He's not going to care about the technique. He just wants to run over you and, wrestle. So punch you in the face. Almost, it's interesting how him and Nick Lee have a little bit different styles as far as Joe's a little bit more wild and Nick's a little bit more controlled. So, Chad, what's your take here?
I just looked at my first round picks. I just like the talent level here in this. The only guy I haven't seen, Ed, you probably saw him at Newcastle, is the East Central kid there. So far, they're right next door to Cincinnati down there. But 41-2, it seems like East Central always has a kid or two, come around and look good. So I don't know what he'll do against Lee, but I do know, I think Joe, you were saying that someone like Hatch may have enough finesse there if Lee comes after him that he can put him in a bad position, maybe score some points on him if he comes at him too fast. Where someone like Casper last year in the finals, Casper was going to go toe to toe, and Joe Lee kind of bottled him or bunched him up and pinned him pretty quick. Where a Hatch or a Kern or someone like that may have the athleticism or the funkiness to give Lee some problems. Now, that being said, I got Lee rolling through the bracket, meeting Kern in the finals. I like Warren over Bethel in the bottom. that Kern Breathitt match is going to be good. Breathitt is a heck of a good kid. That'll be a tough match. Hatch and Reed, I think Columbia City kid is pretty dang good too. Has a nice record. They'll probably give Hatch a good match. I got Hatch and Warren in the wrestling for third and fourth, with Jolie winning, Kern second, Hatch third, and Warren fourth.
Sounds good. Moving up, 160.
Did Mike talk about 152s?
Did you talk, Mike? Oops. I'm
I
sorry.
got the first one. I think I said everyone. I said Jolie. No, I had to talk. I was just joking.
Okay. We're losing track. We're going on an hour and a half here.
On my second cup of coffee, so.
Uh-oh. Moving up, 160. This is probably one of the more wide open weight classes. The probably favorites, you have Brad Laughlin, who's looking pretty good. Khalees Mappis, who's had who's one you can't count out to come tournament time. Austin Baines coming in undefeated, has some great state experience. And then you have Diego Lemley, who has a few less matches this year, but seems to have turned it on at the right time. So there's a lot of good matches. And then you have the one of the Stock brothers lurking on the in the bracket, so you can't count those guys out. Just a lot of good weight, pretty good weight. I'd like, the semifinals are gonna be fun, and you could probably run the semifinals 2 or 10 times and get 10 different results. Ed, what's your take here?
Yeah, this is a crazy weight class to predict. For those of you filling out brackets at home, this is the one. You get this one close to right, you're gonna win. This is a weight where who's gonna get hot? Stock and Levitz have got some time. Lemley's a killer and going to hit you, and they're wrestling hot. Bain just wins matches that nobody thinks he's going to win in Baker's life. That's what happens. Mathis with a whole bunch of mat experience and an ability to scramble with the solid top point kid coming out of his quarterfinal of the bracket. Laughlin's had some big summer success. Coming through the tournament is probably the best spot of anybody out of this bracket and so far. So, you'll put those guys in the semis. I think Bain's ability to win matches in Baker's life, to wrestle Lemley in the semifinals. I don't know. I watched Bain wrestle some matches, a couple years out of Connorsville and in the Newcastle semi-state and, at the state tournament, and you go, okay, he's going to have a hard time here, and he just finds a way to win. And looking at this match, I'm going, Lemley's going to win, and I'm an idiot for not picking Bain because all he does is win matches in the state tournament. And I think if you go Lemley, Laughlin probably in the finals, and it probably puts Laughlin on top. But I don't put much confidence in any of these picks at all because there's guys that are wrestling well, guys that are style matchups and guys that just don't lose in this gym. And so, hell, I don't know. Can I use that?
Who's your pick on? Who's your fantasy guy?
Fantasy team, I have Cash.
Oscar.
Good. Nice pick. He's really good on top.
Yeah.
I think that's always an equalizer.
I like him.
Him and Mappa should be a good one. I mean, Cash, that should be a good Saturday morning match.
Yeah, Mappis' only loss is to Wirtz there, that Cash's opening round, so that might even be a good Friday night match.
Yep. Chad, what's your take here?
In the bottom half, I think Laughlin's a cut above. The other three have Mappis, Cash, Laughlin, and Calhoun. Like I said, I think Laughlin's a cut above there, but Mappis, looking over his Al Smith results, he's kind of like what Ed was saying about Bain. He just wins matches. I think he won 4 straight decisions under 4 points there, and he had a tough go at the Al Smith. He didn't have any easy matches, and just one steady. Those type of kids are usually pretty good in the postseason. But I like Laughlin over him in the bottom. Lemley, maybe one of the toughest kids in the state. He's banged up every year, but refuses to not wrestle. And he came through with a semi-state title last week. And if Chesterton has good opening rounds there, he may be doing it for the team, which adds a little bit of juice. But I'm going to go with Bain. His dad and I went to college together, so it's a little bit of a homer pick, but I'll go with Alston Bain in the finals. Laughlin to win the finals. Lemley and Mapes for third and fourth.
What's your take here, Mike?
I
You guys stick with your
ongoing joke. We do a fantasy pick'ems too, and my brother doesn't watch any wrestling all year. He watches maybe one or two meets, and he wins this thing almost every year, which is ridiculous to me. And I feel like he's a good luck charm. He took Gleason Mappus. Is it Mapes or Mappus?
Mappus.
Mappus. And I thought it was, but I wasn't positive. So I got a feeling that kid's gonna make it under the lights. That's a little shout out to my brother, always picking these guys, and then they end up being in the lights. I'm like, he said, why didn't you have that guy ranked higher? He's really good. So Diego's been wrestling out of his mind. He's really good on his feet, and I think he was upset after his win against Cash at the semi-state, and I think that's just one of those things. Like, those are the guys that are going to be pushing and making it better and going. The Stock brothers have obviously they weren't pleased with their rankings, which is fine. If they use that as motivation, that's even better, and they have. And they've been killing. So I got Stocks over Levitz. I got Bain over Atkins, even though Atkins was super impressive. That kid's a monster on top.
Yeah.
And he scores points. Like, he's not just a guy that goes out there and rides. That kid's going to get on top of you and score points. I got Chase Wilson over Bussy in a rematch with Al Smith. I got Mappus over Cash. But I know I just picked Mappus to the finals. I think kids that are really good on top are equalizer to high school kids, because I just don't think that there's enough mat work putting in, and Oscar Cash can ride with anybody. Brad Laughlin's been amazing all year. I think that he really impressed me at the Al Smith, or not the Al Smith, but the IndianaMat early on. And Josh G, man, shout out for that kid from Shenandoah. That kid went out there, beat Lane Frazee, who I was super high on. I thought Lane Frazee was going to win the semi-state, turns around and beats Christian Warren, gives him his only loss of the season in the ticket round. So shout out to Shenandoah and Josh G, man. I didn't have him ranked. I hope that kid makes it around. I hope he gets under the lights. Wrestling hot.
Definitely. Moving up, 170. Pretty solid weight class. 1 and 2, Webster and Van Horn in the same quarter bracket, thanks to Eli Stock. You got Stock and then Ruberg or Raider in the quarters down there. That should be a pretty good one. You got lots of just big good matchups to start the night. Get to get a rematch of Fator and Baumgartner from the Al Smith. I think there's about 12 Al Smith placers in this weight. I mean, I know the Al Smith was pretty loaded here. You have Baumgartner, Fator, Corneo was there, Swank was there, Hayes was there, Goring was there, Raider was there. I mean, that was a brutal weight class.
Raider DNP'd, right? Raider didn't place.
Yeah, Raider and Baumgartner didn't place. And the champ, Panola, isn't even there.
Oh, yeah.
So that just tells you, how deep of a weight class it was.
The Panola-Ruberg match was awesome. It was your typical – I think if you guys saw Panola at Al Smith, I didn't see the Al Smith this year, but I've seen Panola through their sectional, their regional, and the semi-state. And Panola-Webster was awesome, as Panola's down 2 takedowns. And Panola scores 2 takedowns and comes back and wins, which I heard that's the way he did it at the Al Smith a couple times.
Yeah.
And then the Ruberg match, it is, here you go. Panola's down 2 takedowns, and Panola gets the second takedown, and I think a stall call to tie it. And with 25 seconds left, and Mr. Paris comes out and chews some world-class fanny. And with the fear of God, Ruberg scores a reversal to win. I mean, it was awesome. It was, entertaining for the sport. It's sadder than hell, that one of them's got to have a season end. But that was an entertaining moment there at Newcastle.
Yeah, that's one of those. Ruberg qualified as a freshman, got hurt as a sophomore, and then lost to Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah, So that was one of those that, man, you think of qualifying because he qualified, I want to say like at 50, was it 52?
38.
38, 30. It was a pretty good weight class.
He lost to Kovac Friday night as a freshman.
Yeah, in a close match too, I think. So that was one of those, man, that you could have. Pretty certain it was fairly close.
Kovac wrestles in tight ones, right?
Yeah. So, Mike, what's your take here at 170?
170 is a really deep weight. I feel like this is a weight where you can kind of toss it anywhere. Anyone can win. Like a lot of these guys have done really well. Bryce Baumgartner, 4th time there. This is where I have Belmont breaking the streak of getting medals, but Bradley Lowe's tough. He was on the watch list. Cicerelli and Fator, that's an interesting matchup. Fator likes to score a lot of points. He's really good on top. He gets out early. Cicerelli slows it down. Those are both big, strong 170s. Tanner Webster, ranked number 2. Tough draw for Cornejo. He's been there twice now. He draws the number 1 ranked kid in the state, returning runner-up. But I'm sure Portage will have a game plan ready for Van Horn. Swank and Hayes. I have Swank and Goring in the quarters. I have Swank to the finals. I have Elijah Stock over Bradley Groover. Shout out to the Ingots from River Forest. First day qualifier since 2005.
Best name of the tournament, Groover.
Yeah. Only a second state qualifier for them. I have Ruberg over Raider, Stock over Groover. I have Ruberg over Stock. I have Swank to the finals. I have Van Horn over Webster. I have Van Horn to the finals.
Chad, what's your take here?
Like Mike, I like Belmont getting off the schneid here, getting a medalist with Baumgartner winning that first round match. Fattori, Ciccarelli. Hadn't seen Anthony. I've seen Fator. Fator's can put up some points, and I like him there. Obviously, that next quarterback, that's the marquee match. If it goes as chalk, you got 1 versus 2 on Saturday morning. I'm sure all eyes will be there. I like Webster there over Van Horn. Swank and Ruberg meeting in the semis in the bottom. And then I've got Webster over Swank in the finals with Ruberg beating Fator for 3rd place.
What's your take there, Coach P?
I'm pissed Pinola's not in there just to throw another guy that could win it and you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
This is another one. If you got your pick'ems contest at home, if you can pick 1 through 4 here, you're the man. I don't know. I think Swank coming through, but can he get past Hayes Friday night? I think Webster's killing it, but Van Horn doesn't lose the Baker's life. I think the top racker, okay, Baumgartner's got the most experience, but he also struggles in this environment. You go with the Bricky. Hell, I don't know. If you're going to make me pick one so I can be invited back next year, I'd probably take Ruberg in the semis on the bottom against Swank and, the top half. Only because he's on my fantasy team, I'm going to take Fator against Webster.
Ooh.
I like it.
And
so to make the finals, you go with Webster versus Swank, and I got to go with the Purdue guy if I got to pick a team, pick a winner here, and so I'll go with Webster to win.
Yeah,
but, this is one. Hell, I don't know.
I think Baumgartner looked pretty good Saturday. He put it on Goring fairly well. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer match. And Baumgartner, when he wants to wrestle, he wrestles. Sometimes he kind of takes some time off in matches, and that could hurt him at this level because he's got to put together 4 good matches. And he could win it. He could also lose Friday night. Sometimes you never know what you're getting. Hopefully, pretty nice kid. He's a former gorilla. A couple former gorillas here, so you gotta give my shout outs to them. They, hopefully they get Belmont off the schneid. We need us Fort Wayne guys need them to bring home some placers to help our numbers a little bit.
the Stock brothers to come out in the parade in some sort of like WWE tag team. Hearing all the stories about them, it seems like the type that might have like 2x4s or.
They both come out in Michigan warm-up jackets.
Right.
Now they're gonna have an IndianaMat shirt with a red circle and a slash through it.
Yeah.
Hey, at least they're looking at the rankings. We don't even watch the rankings. These guys are in it. I love it.
So moving up, 182. Another pretty good weight class, pretty deep weight class.
Good city.
I mean, the top guys are separated. Gray and Walton, I think, are two of the top guys there. Obviously, you have Dahl, you have Connor Graber. I see number three not qualify.
Lucas.
Davison. There he is. Davison's on the top half. I know Gray's 2 losses are to Walton, both pretty close matches, especially in the duel. I think it was like a 1-0 match or 2-0 match, something like that. So Walton can put some points on the board, and he can also kind of slow it down. Russell, a slower pace, showed kind of a little bit of a diversity there. Definitely excited to see him and Davison. That they're both pretty tough kids. I know Nathan has wrestled the older Davison a few times and didn't go his way from what I saw in freestyle and Greco, but I don't think that's exactly his best styles. So we'll start with you this time, Chad.
All right. Looking at Friday night, actually, I see Blakely and Ethan Stanbaugh down there, 6 versus 8. There's 2 seniors with maybe a couple losses between them. Probably expecting to place. That should be full of fireworks. Ed, you probably know a little bit more about Stanbaugh, but Blakely, I know, is not going to back down. Those Prairie Heights kids are tough as nails. That's a good first-round match. I like I'm an old NECC conference guy, so I'm going to go the homer pick and go with the Prairie Heights kid there. Lucas Davison impressed the heck out of me. I think I mentioned in a post that he went from a ticket round guy last year to a guy I think is going to give Nathan Walton all he wants in the semis this year. I got Graber and Walton then. I've got Walton coming through, beating Davison in the semis in the top. Then that Saturday morning, that Jessup heard some things about Jessup, what a strong kid he is, and then Dole, how skilled he is. That should be a good matchup there on Saturday morning, 9 versus 2. I think Jacob Gray has the best route there through the first round and quarters at the bottom. So I like Gray and Walton to the finals, with Walton winning, and then Davison getting third over Dole, Dole in fourth.
Mike, what's your take?
Pretty similar. I have Walton over Lockett. I think Nathan's had a nice run this year. I have Connor Graber over Rolfs. I have Lucas Davison over Heinrich, but Heinrich's tough, man. I wouldn't sleep on him either. I know he has 9 losses, but he's a solid kid. He was there last year. Blakely Stanbaugh. I have Stanbaugh over Blakely. I think that he holds position really well. I think that he's going to grind you out. I haven't seen Jessup 24-2, but I heard he's thick. I got Jessup. I got Thomas Dahl over Faulkner, but that's one I'm looking forward to too, because I know Faulkner got some throwing them, and I know Thomas Dahl got some throwing them. Those guys go out there and do some Friday night throwing, which is always exciting. Cameron Simmons I like, but I got Gray. I got Jeremy Torres over Jake Moore. I got Gray, Dahl, Davison, Walton in the semis.
Coach P, how's I know Jessup's kind of been under the radar a little bit. How's he been looking this year?
Under the radar, man. He's ranked 9.
I'd say a little bit under the radar. I didn't say under the radar.
I know watching some football, he was a huge part of HSE beating Carmel the first week of football. I just went, holy cow. And I had heard somewhere between last year and this year he had found the weight room in Hamilton Southeastern High School. And he wasn't around wrestling the beginning half of the season. And he showed up, and he's big and he's excited and he's going hard. I think, watching Jessup wrestle now, he's excited to be there. And that, when you go with power, with not being tall, makes you hard to score on. And now he's just, like I said, he's excited, he's happy, he's getting after it. I know Dole's been around for a while, and I haven't seen him very much. And, that's a match I'm going on just because my buddies told me to watch it, not on anything I know about Dole. And so, who's going to come out of that one? If you're asking me to make a pick, I don't know, because I don't know Dole very well. I know Jessup's going to keep solid position. He's not going to do stupid things. And if you do, you're going to be in trouble. And I think Dole's a guy that's going to come out and make some attempts. And I think if that's the case, then I'm going to take Jessup in that quarterfinal of the bracket. Do you want me to do the rest of my bracket?
Sure. Who's on your Pick'ems team first?
My fantasy team, I have Davison.
Oh, that's a good pick. So we'll put him in the finals.
That's a region heavy fantasy team you're running there with Ed.
What's that?
That's a region heavy fantasy team you got.
No, I got to be honest. I was the 7th pick, which means I got the 7th and the 8th pick. And I just opened my tournament with I'll take both Davisons.
Not bad picks. Not bad picks.
Thank you.
In Davis Stein, you trust.
Right. No, and this is a weight class that could be a lot of fun. Walton has few losses in his life. Davison's a guy that hasn't lost this year. You could say he was a ticket rounder last year, but he lost to
Jake Lamola at 95.
Right.
To get out. But right, and he had the Hanover Central kid in the regional. I think it was the first time he lost to him.
And then
we had also beaten Kalamola that year.
Yeah, at the DAC.
So, they all come in with their pedigrees and resumes coming through. Jacob Gray's going to knock you in the jaw and pull your head off. And if he can pull your head off and accidentally score points, he's going to win. And so in that type of mentality in this gym is a good place to be. I think if I got to pick somebody to come out of the bottom half of the bracket, it's going to be Gray. I think, he'll be able to pick Jessup apart by the time they get to the semis. And that's, like I said, it's no knock on Dole. I've never seen him. I don't know very much about him at all. Stambaugh Davison. Stambaugh and Jessup the last couple of weeks have been fun to watch. They're both in our sectional. And, Jessup's got a little bit of power size, and Stambaugh's got just mat sense and a whole bunch of savvy. And so, it's been fun to watch those guys pick each other apart and make things real difficult for an official as they go through. And Jessup got one out last week, so put Stambaugh in a match with Davison. I don't know how Stambaugh is going to be able to handle Davison's size, and then really it's how's Davison going to handle Stambaugh's ability to stay in compact. And if you mess up, he's going to make things close. And so that one's going to be a fun one to come through. Just because of my fantasy pick, I'm going to take Davison through. And then the top half of the bracket, Walton, is always fun to watch. I think the Walton-Davison match just will be fun because I think they're both 6'5" and going to start somersaulting and stepping over stuff you're not supposed to do. I know I'm going to make sure when those two wrestle, I'm going to go up to all the middle school kids that are there that we've asked to come watch the tournament and say, okay, everybody go get a snow cone right now. That's what here we want you to watch.
Do not do that.
But it's funner than hell. I love them all to death. And this is a weight class. I don't know who's going to win. Like I said, Stambaugh, if he gets through Blakely in the Davison match, that's going to be fun to watch. And so, coming through out of that, I think on my bracket I've got Gray and Davison in the finals. And Mr. Davison is my financial advisor, so I have to pick his children or else I'm going to get charged higher fees.
Smart move. Yeah. So I just want to know, who are you in this pick'ems with? There's a bunch of third graders. It sounds like you have a pretty good team here.
I got a real good team. But no, who is on this fantasy league is Doug Welch, which he might be the worst fantasy team picker ever.
Probably because he picked all Castle guys.
13 Castle kids.
Yeah, he's got the – no. I'm going to read you Welch's team just so the team can – At 106, he has Hickman. At 13, he's got Kavanaugh, Moscone, Jurdy, Reitz, Selmer, McIntosh, Hatz, Bain, Stock, Jessup, Tante, Gould, Ellis.
Got 3 or 4 good picks.
Can't do
Did you guys do these picks this week or?
Yeah, no, we did it this week. Everybody drew names, and you just
Okay.
put anybody in any weight.
So what you're saying is Welch did actually draw names out of a hat, is how he did his picks.
No, I think he was just waiting for the red dot to stop twitching, and then he just picked whatever one was in front of him.
Nice.
No whammies. No whammies.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, how about the Amish assassin up there on top? Will he have anything for Walton there? I know the way his brother wrestled, he was going to be solid and not probably. I mean, Walton's a high risk, high reward type of guy.
Chin Whip City.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Graber, keep it close.
I think he could make it interesting. Obviously, he's going to be a strong kid. He's going to be big. And I know his brother was in the corner. I didn't really watch too much of him wrestling. I mean, I know he can wrestle with those guys. He's beaten Blakely. I didn't even see him in Gray, in all honesty, but I think he could give him a decent match. I mean, if he wrestles well, I think he's going to stay in good position. I don't think the Grabers were. I know his brother wasn't one that's going to compromise position. I think he's going to. I mean, if you make a mistake, he'll capitalize on it. Walton, he can wrestle kind of wild. He can also wrestle very conservative too, and staying in good position. Depends on what kind of Walton you're going to get there. And sometimes he gets himself into trouble. He'll randomly slam a kid and almost cost us a duel against Kentucky. Things like that. So you never know what Walton you're going to get. And you feed him a little bit too much sugar, you might get the one that might go a little crazy. So if you're Northridge, put some Amish crack in.
What is that?
You know, oh my goodness.
Amish crack is I just ordered some. We do a fundraiser. It's called Rise and Roll Bakery. They have like these apple fritters that are amazing.
Oh, these donuts are just like
Cinnamon rolls, donuts.
Crack.
Amish
All
crack.
right, good. I was gonna say I was gonna play it off. I know what you're talking about. Ed doesn't know that. I don't know either.
From the Amish assassin to Amish crack.
That's right.
You really think you're not going to get struck by lightning tonight?
Rough. It's rough.
No, because they don't have electricity. They're not watching.
There we go. Yeah. God's not watching. He doesn't have the internet.
Yeah, no, there's Rise and Roll Bakery. If you're up in northern Indiana, find a Rise and Roll Bakery. Maybe I'll go grab some tomorrow before I head out, and I'll get you guys some. There are these like brown sugar, powdered sugar stuff that's really, really good. So yes,
Amish crack. Yep.
Moving up 195. Going to be a fun one. It looks like this one was kind of seeded fairly well, if you want to call it that. Tante and Davison will probably be the top two in the ones we'll be watching. Quarterfinal match that will be very, very intriguing is Eli versus Stewart.
How about that Friday night of Wilderman versus Stewart?
Yeah, that's a Friday night one. That's going to be
that quarter bracket's wicked. Yeah.
Yes. Eli looked really good at Fort Wayne. He pinned
I think he pinned his way through the tournament.
Yeah, pinned Hankinson in the first period, just cradled him up, and it was over. It was pretty impressive. He looks like he's on a mission, as we always want to say, going to make some noise, and he's been there right in the mix with everybody. Him and Wilderman Stewart's going to be a fun one, and if he keeps wrestling, with that mindset that he's going to go out there and just dominate. I don't know if he has enough for Davison. Davison looked like he owned him at Al Smith, but I mean, that was 2 months ago. So, you don't know what's going to happen now, in that time. So, Coach P, what's your take here?
This one's the weight class I'm most excited to watch. For those of you scoring at home, I have Davison on my fantasy team. Wilderman Stewart. Knowing very much about Wilderman from the beginning of the season to now, I think he was struggling early or wasn't in the lineup early. There's some stuff I'm not really sure. But after seeing Stewart last weekend, there's a weight room at Cathedral, that's for sure. this son of a gun is big. And so can Wilderman pick them apart? I give you my version of Tante and Stewart last week in the finals. I think the watching Stewart attack Tante and watching Tante, move and adjust position and get out of bounds, and watching Stewart attack him. And I don't know if one was getting frustrated or not, but then, at the end of the period, boop, Tante takes him down. So Stewart gets up angrier, and the next period it's Stewart's attack and in on a shot, and Tante sneaks his way out of bounds and sneaks his way here, and gets out of it. Seems like Tante's just surviving for his life, and then pop, Tante takes him down again. You go, this is incredible. And so, I mean, it's like I said, I've said it a bunch, and I'll keep saying it. That's my favorite stuff to watch is the mean bulldog versus the assassin that's gonna, cut you, but then you're gonna be down before you know it. And so that's super fun to watch. And then you throw into the equation Davison, who can score from a whole bunch of places and do a whole bunch of different things. I just want to see Stewart step out on the mat with Davison, because I think Andrew Davison's a pretty strong guy. And I just want to see, what those two look like. And so Wilderman, Stewart, I know we wrestled Wilderman last year, and he's pretty good and can wrestle from a bunch of positions. And can he find a way to get on top and make things difficult for Stewart? Eli, I've never seen. And so, I would just be guessing. I'm going on what people tell me. But the Davison, Stewart, Tante, and if Schaefer comes through in the other part of the semifinals on that, that's going to be awesome to watch. And the only thing I'm going to be pissed off about is, we only get to see it once, because I want to shuffle them in a jar and roll them back out there and wrestle it all again. Because I'll watch. Davison came down last year for our freestyle duels tournament, and he wrestled Robert Samuels. And you just watch that and you went, holy cow, this is going to be awesome. And it was. As the two of them attacked each other, I think Samuels lateral Davison, and then Davison suit Samuels, or I'm going to mess it up, and both of them are probably going to kick my ass Saturday for saying it wrong. But, it's just fun wrestling. I want to see, Davison wrestle Stewart, and then I want to watch Davison wrestle Tante, and I'll watch Stewart and Tante wrestle, and after it's all over again, I want to wrestle them again. Because it's entertaining stuff. Those guys are going to go at you. And at big guys, at high-level wrestling, at big stages, this is the weight class I want to see those guys compete against each other a bunch. I got Davison in the finals over Tante. Again, go back to my answer on 1980 or 182 of why.
Yeah, and the one guy that we're kind of really skipping over that we probably shouldn't is Kyle Schaefer from South Putnam. I know some of the people down south were riding him pretty high right now. Sixth place finisher 2 years ago at 182. Definitely one that could play spoiler if you overlook him. Mike, what's your take here?
I'm kind of close to what Ed said. I have Davison over into the finals. I have Stewart over Wilderman. I have Eli over Stewart, actually. I have Davison over Eli again. They said Schaefer, if you're not ready to wrestle for 8 minutes, he'll probably get you because he's going to come at you hard for 6 minutes, and he's going to take you to the break. But I have Tante and Davison in the finals.
Chad, what are you looking at here?
Kind of following in line here. I think Davison's the best wrestler in the field. Ed was talking about the mental battle or the physical contrast of Stewart and Tante. I think Davison can maybe not match toe to toe, but he's got the combination of technique and savvy. Plus, he's got the physical ability, the strength there. I like Davison coming out of the bottom. I've got Stewart over Eli. Eli has gone through pretty much everyone in the north except Davison. He looks awfully good. I'm going to go with Schaefer. I remember him just briefly a little bit 2 years ago. Always keep an eye on the small school guys. South Putnam, 300-400 or 400-500 student school there down by Turkey Run State Park. So I always like seeing those guys do well. I've got Davison over Tante, and then Stewart over Schaefer in the for third and fourth there.
Okay.
Now I'll make a pick at 82. I got Walton at 82.
Sorry.
I got Walton at 82.
Moving up to 220, aka the Mason Paris show. Should we talk about it, or we just leave it at Mason Paris?
I'm interested in seeing that first round match. Scroggs is not no one to sleep on there. I think I'd like to see a great Friday night match there. Obviously, though, I think Mason's the top pound for pound guy in the state right now. So that is.
Definitely.
It sounded like all the 220s put on a show, right? Didn't Corbin Maddox put on a show out of Fort Wayne?
Yeah, Maddox looked really good, and he wanted to put some points on the board. I think he might be close to Brayton Lee's takedowns from the season. I mean, I think he might have given up 250 escapes last weekend. So he looked really good. Definitely the move up to 220, got on the opposite side of Paris. I guess that was the goal. You get in the finals and get under the lights, whether you win or not, you're under the lights. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Daleville's another tiny school that has a shot to get their guy on, like I said, under the lights. Big deal.
Yep. You have Paris versus Larson potentially in the quarters, or in the semis. I'm sorry. So obviously that was one that Josh Lowe was ragging on, about, returning runner up and champion on the same side. I saw Austin Evans. He's fun to watch. I'll give you guys one of those. He'd rather throw you than know you. And I know his take around match against Kilgore of Cherubusco. That was, he tried throwing him like 3 or 4 times and hit, he went to the well a lot, and he only was successful once, but that's all it takes. So that was a pretty big match. And I know he was down a little bit in that match. So you got top half, you got Eli Picorni, who's having a great season. Should be some good matches up there. McLean and Garrison Lee. Then the Maddox versus Vicale, two grizzled veteran coaches that are gonna, coach their kids up, and that could be a very close match. And then
not a rematch, but Corbin Maddox wrestled the other Vicale High last year, the older brother.
Nice. Ed, what's your take? Here, I'll let you talk first.
Thanks. Paris pretty good. No, I won't keep going on about that. Everybody else knows the same. It stinks for Gunnar Larson to be in the spot that he's in. Just the semifinals, and complain about it or deal with the cards you're dealt. The top half of the bracket should be neat who comes out of that. I think Picorni's young and he's got great partners. McLean's got experience and some quality things going on in his room. Should be a fun match to watch. I think somebody come out of that. McLean is probably got a little bit too much experience and those types of things is going to overcome the advantages that Picorni has coming out of his room. The bottom half of the bracket, Maddox is going to score points, and he's not going to make mistakes. He's been to the tournament before. I think, I like Maddox coming out of that with Maddox and McLean. They did not wrestle at Connorsville. Maddox was still at 95. And, if he can handle the size of McLean, because McLean's a big dude to come out of the top half of that. I think if Maddox can manage the size of McLean, it's Maddox's to win. If McLean can, make a match be more about power, I'm going to take McLean to make the finals in there. And obviously, Mason on the bottom is going to put it on some people. What do you wrestle for 3 minutes in the semi-state?
Jeez. Maddox did look pretty good size. He didn't look like he was a full-size 220, but he didn't look small by any means, which is, he looks like he's been to that weight room area, No,
I'll show you the film. We got our 95 because we went up to 220 also. And we thought we had a pretty good 95-pounder. That's a big, big kid. And, we're not compared to Paris. or McLean. Like I said, those guys are big, they're agile, and that's what everybody wants their 220-pounder to look like.
Yeah, definitely. Chad, what's your take here?
Looking at the top half of the bracket, that's obviously where the interesting matches we want to see there. I like McLean and Picorni, the top two, and then Maddox and Isaac McCormick. Picorni impressed me watching him closely for the first time, really since Al Smith. I thought he was going to have a little bit more trouble with Akers and Donnie Kreider from Harrison, who's a kind of a weird matchup. But Picorni, I thought looked solid as a rock. So I like him in that first quarter bracket. I like Maddox over McCormick. I just thinking what you're saying about practice partners in that Chesterton room. If you've got the Davison brothers, Picorni, and if Dad still gets after it in there, that'd be a nasty foursome to watch there. In the bottom, Larson and Akers is who I have, and I think that's going to be a good match. I think Akers can keep that close and give himself a chance. Mason, be interesting to see how he wrestles a guy that's 6'8", but I like him there. Like Paris coming through over Larson, maybe a little closer than people think, but we'll see. And then Paris over who do I have? Paris over McLean, I guess. Yeah, Paris over McLean, and then Maddox over Larson, or Larson over Maddox for third.
Mike, what's your take here?
I kind of side with Josh Lowell. That's too bad that Larson and Paris are going to be in the semis. I think Larson could have made 90, 97, 95. I know he's going to be at 97 in college, but I think he stayed at 220 for the team. I have Picorni over Gavin Hare. I have McLean over Garrison Lee. I have Maddox, McCormick in the quarter there. I have Larson and Akers. I have Mason over Scroggs, and I have Kreider. Kreider, not that I think he's going to beat Paris, but that's just kind of a weird guy to wrestle. He puts you in some weird positions. He had Picorni on his back. I know he has something like 50 falls or 48 falls this year, something stupid. He's a big, strong kid, like a very big kid. I think I said last week he was 6'8". I think he's like more 6'6", 6'7". But he's a big kid.
Yeah, I mean he's thick through the shoulders. He's got he's not like a big gangly kid. He's got some beef to him.
I'd be going on a side to say Donnie Kreider's not watching this tonight. He's probably just going to go out there and do Donnie Kreider stuff. And I got Paris to the finals over Larson. Unfortunate for Larson, I got Maddox on the top. I think McLean and Picorni and Maddox kind of wrestle. McLean's going to slow you down. He wins a lot of those 2-1s. And I think Picorni is going to try to get to his offense. I think Maddox is going to try to get to his offense. So I have McLean stopping Picorni's offense, but Maddox still implementing his offense.
Yeah. That the McKeever and Kreider match is going to be very interesting because McKeever's maybe 5'8" on a good day. So you're looking at close to a foot difference.
How tall is Gavin Hare? They said he's a short, stocky guy too, right?
Yeah, he's probably 5'6", 5'7". Him and McKeever were pretty much identical to each other as far as build. So that was an interesting third place match. But yeah, that's going to be I know Kreider was on our team at Yorktown. We picked him up, and he's funky. He's going to try to do things that you don't teach, and it's hard to prepare for. I know that for a fact. So, it's hard to prepare for. You can't find a 6'7" guy roaming around the hallways.
I said that last week, and Crown Point corrected me and said that they had him wrestling Mason Paris all week, or Mason Crawl.
Yeah.
Mason Crawl was 6'6", so they said that they had a guy for him.
Nice. Yeah, most people don't have those guys looking around, and I don't think the basketball coach would let us borrow any of their 6'7" guys to toss around.
He's got 56 matches.
That's
he's got 60. He's 56 wins, right?
56 and 4, I think.
No, he's 53 and 3.
Oh, 53 and 3.
56 matches. He's been tested, I guess.
War on the Wabash.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm curious how many are pins and how many are – I mean, I doubt he's gone to the 6 minutes much.
No. He put Picorni on his back, caught Akers on his back. That was a really good match. I tell you, he does Donnie Kreider type things.
Here's the what's the chance that he walks the parade with no T-shirt on and his straps up on his singlet? That's what I want. That's what I want to know.
He was wearing a black glitter hat on Saturday, like sequin.
Like Michael Jackson hat type thing, or what?
No, like Jennifer Lopez type hat.
Oh, okay.
He does Donnie Kreider things, man. I'm telling you.
Fly guy.
Nice. Okay, we're up to our last weight class.
Wrapping it up.
Lots of fireworks going. This is probably one of the more wide open weight classes also. 3 undefeated guys, Wade Ripple and Evan Ellis on the top side. Then you have Isaiah McWilliams, the bus, on the bottom side. The bottom quarter is going to be a fun one. Elijah Bailey, Dan Clark, the truck Clark.
Right.
Well, everyone has motor vehicle names. Jesse, I guess the love bug, maybe. No, I guess probably Ricky's probably the love bug.
Ricky, Fat Blanket Clark.
Yes. And then you have Jesse. You have the highlight of the night is going to be Clark versus Lawson.
Yeah.
Lawson's more of a suburban type guy. I think you got a love bug in the suburban. Right there. So some great matches here. Ed, how do you see this one shaking out?
The heavyweight is always a pick 'em, I think, because you go with just statistically the least amount of points that they score and those types of things. I know watching the Newcastle heavies, Samuels and Bailey are going to wrestle. It's not a belly bump and get to underhooks and hope for a stall call and front headlock you. Those guys are going to go get you. And so that makes things an awful lot of fun when you put those in. The Mount Vernon guy I know nothing about. I could never see. I know Alt's got some matches in him. For those of you keeping score at home, I do have Robert Samuels on my fantasy team. And so I've got Samuels coming through making the finals. Ellis is a guy that can he's going to score points. He's not a guy that's been a lifer at heavy, and he's battle tested at the national level. And so, seeing him come through, how Streck can handle the size and the wrestling of Ellis in the semis, I think, we'll see how it turns out. But if I got to pick somebody, I'll take Ellis. McWilliams coming through just on him wrecking people everywhere that he goes. But the one that I'm super excited about every time I watch him, every week he gets better, is Bailey. And how Lou does it, I don't know. The 5'4" guy named Silverman coaching great big giant heavyweights that can attack and be heavyweights. It's impressive what comes out of the room. And so I think I've got an all Mick finals with Samuels and Bailey round like 9 for those guys coming through. And that's because I got Samuels losing by 7 to Ellis, and he's going to inside trip him and then body lock and throw him.
Kevon Ganson move there.
Right, and then my eye's going to fall out because I'm going to go, oh my gosh, so loud my eye came out.
It's going to lock up your fantasy victory for the weekend.
Yeah. I go in the finals, and then with Samuels versus Bailey in the finals, it's going to be 6 inside trips. It's going to be 24 to 24, 12 takedowns and 12 escapes each.
Jeez.
And then Bailey's going to push Samuels out of bounds. He's going to say, cut it, and push him back. And then Bailey's going to arm spin him, and then Samuels isn't going to go. And then he's going to score and win in overtime. So I've got Samuels beating Bailey 39 to 38. Penalty point.
Penalty point. Nice. We all know that Samuels is he always about 210 on a good day, soaking wet. Isn't Bailey a little bit smaller for a heavyweight?
I don't think he's 210. If I had to guess, I've never seen him weigh in. But I'm going to go 220 to 240, maybe 250, but he's not round.
Yeah.
He's wrestled some good guy this year.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one. I mean, you can't count out Samuels, who's been under the lights. And he's kind of been up and down this year, kind of streaky, but that was kind of how he was last year, and he turned it on at the right time. So you can't doubt that guy. And then you have someone like Evan Ellis, been there, done that. He's been there. I mean, he's one of the top guys in the state. Very smart kid too, going to Brown. So that's one that, I'm looking up. Him and Ellis and Streck should be an interesting one. Mike, what's your take here?
There's a lot of heavyweights. Brandon Streck and Isaiah McWilliams got added in the finals of the East Chicago semi-state. They were going forward the whole time. Both are really offensive-minded heavyweights. I think there's a lot of smaller guys. I think those guys are probably closer to 250. I think Ellis and Streck will be a good one in the quarter. I just haven't picked my guy that I think that Maryville does a good job of getting a guy that I wasn't expecting to be in the semis, into the semis. There's always a guy. There's always one Maryville guy. I'm actually going to take an upset there. I'm going to take Brandon Streck over Evan Ellis. And then I'm going to take Brandon Streck to the finals with McWilliams again. I have Streck winning it this time. I'll go Streck in the championship.
Woo. Chad, what's your take here?
Pretty much, Reeser, you just went, I will answer your Newcastle semi-state champion.
I just flipped it on that.
Semi-state champions.
What's your take there, Chad?
I actually like the Ivy League Ellis to win it all here. I got Ripple, third ranked. He was a ticket round guy. Lost to, I think, the Gallagher kid from Columbus East in the ticket round last year. It was tough. Mount Vernon kind of has a history of good heavyweights. What was that Italian name? This guy that was
Zari.
Yeah.
Chad.
Yeah. So I like him there coming out of that quarter bracket against Samuels. I like Ellis over Streck. Bus. He like Mike said, he's super offensive, great kid. He's going to be attacking legs. He's about, if he's taller than me, he's not that much taller. So he's about 5'6" himself, but thick and athletic. Rhodes is interesting out of Yorktown. He's underrated, I believe. Bailey, like Ed said, those North Central, they do produce upper weight there. That's one thing they consistently put out good upper weights at North Central. And then I've got how many times have Lawson and Ricky wrestled? Probably
twice.
Oh, just twice
with each other.
Yeah.
So I had to correct your article. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And so I've got McWilliams and Bailey coming through to the semis there. McWilliams into the finals against Ellis. Ellis winning, and then Ripple over Elijah Bailey for third and fourth.
Sounds good. Definitely one of those weights that, I mean, I hate to say it, people are going to leave before this one's over, and there's going to be some good matches. These guys are going to get after it, especially for some heavyweights. So you can't miss Clark versus Lawson. The Suburban versus the Love Bug.
That's why Nick isn't on the show tonight. You guys are in a rivalry right now, right?
Yeah, he's not too happy with me. I had about 12 people from Brownsburg texting me saying that they're going to boycott IndianaMat and start a new website. So,
because of what reason?
Because Nick wasn't on the show tonight. Oh. So they're all drinking and drowning their sours away. Hopefully the kids aren't drinking.
Man, throwing shade. Not this week. Don't say that.
No, they wouldn't do that. They're all good kids. I just know my phone was blowing up when they got the word that, the star, I guess, wasn't on. So anyway, any last parting shots, Coach Pendowski? I know you're probably checking your phone for any nice texts.
No, I was going to send you a smart ass one right now offline, but I'll wait and do it later.
Any parting comments?
No, I can tell you, depending on how things work out, just to say for viewing pleasure, I hope Brownsburg has a setback at a weight or two, and I hope that Chesterton and Portage and the Cathedrals and the Modern A's and those guys of the world can put a match together, because I really hope that we can go into the state finals match and see the team race as, 15,000 loyal wrestling fans for Indiana sitting back and watching the team state race. I think that would be super huge for our sport at a time when we can use it a lot. And so, besides all the interesting matches and personalities and body styles and coaching types, I think, what I really, my wish for the state tournament is, one, my fantasy team is better than everybody else's on Carmel. And the other one is that we can get an awesome team race in this venue with a lot of good wrestling to go on top of it, to see a gym just go absolutely crazy. Because I still remember being in high school when Modern Day and Cathedral, it was Belmont, when Belmont wrestled McGinley, or when Gunset wrestled McGinley, and the team race was on the line. Just everybody watching, going, "Oh my goodness!" The whole team scores. The team champion is going to come out of this individual champion, and so that part was super exciting. And I think, just a little bit of slip up from the favorites, and the second or third tier guys being able to get somebody to sneak through. I think to make this an exciting team race would be awesome for all of us as fans.
Yeah, there's nothing more than it's kind of boring when you already had the team title wrapped up by the finals and all that. I mean, yeah, obviously, yes, I agree. I mean, it'd be fun to see some of those teams wrestle a little bit better than they kind of are anticipating, and it takes one little slip up, and that's beauty and the ugliness of our sport.
45.
I think a great example of that is 97. In 97, going into the finals round, Portage is down a half a point. Vega wins the title, puts us up 3.5. Warner wins, puts us up 7.5. And then Kopniski wins for Carmel, 3.5. And then Wright wins, puts Carmel back up by a half a point. The crowd would have gone 8 turns. They would have known all of that was going on.
Yeah.
Do except for us and the Carmel guys. And I know I was cheering my butt off from some dude from Warren I never heard of, just being concerned about the team race. And I think now that the team race is back in this gym, I think there's a chance, and it's a long shot, but to throw a quality team race onto the wrestling, I think our sport could really use that.
Yeah. I mean, add a little electricity, add a little bit of fun to the,
Yeah, if Chesterton gets 2 or 3 of those upper weights in the finals, and they're down, like you said, 15 points, but they get rolling there, that place would blow up. Those Chesterton guys get rolling. That, like we said, that'd make it an awful fun atmosphere. It'd be fun to see that go over 2 or 3 weight classes rather than just a Chad Red versus Nick Lee match. I mean, that was awesome, but like Ed was saying, wouldn't it be awesome to have 30 minutes of electricity watching a team get themselves back into the mix there? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had that announced it. I don't know how many people are keeping up with it. I know that the regional came down to Picorni and Acres, basically whoever won out of that, Crown Point and Chesterton. And I'm not sure how many people outside of the Crown Point team knew the team score going into that final match.
I think with it being on the board up there and with track wrestling kind of keeping things going, I think there's a lot bigger chance of getting the electricity going, getting the energy going in the gym.
Yep. And I mean, even was the Avon sectional, Clark versus Henson, came down to that match, Brownsburg and Avon, and Clark hadn't beaten Henson all year and beats him in overtime. So that's pretty cool. I mean, pretty neat to have, and people go nuts. And I know Nick commented that, I think their AD or someone was there that never been to a match. He's like, man, that was fun. Or no, their bus driver. Is their bus driver that was like, man, that was fun. That type of stuff. That's great for our sport. Any kind of excitement we can add that's not drama filled, that's fun. Excuse me. Mike, any parting shots?
Nope.
No.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. Hey, do you have any parting shots, Mike? No.
Chad, any parting comments?
Only to add to the excitement thing. I just keep thinking, wouldn't this be nice if we could take Thursday off too and have a 3-day, have a full wrestleback tournament. You can, shut down the state like Iowa does, and have everyone get to Indy and have more participation, get more guys there, and make it. After you go to the NCAAs once and you see the build up and you see all the excitement over multiple days, I think that would be kind of cool to see that. Just kind of my pie in the sky wish that we do something like that to just involve more of the state, because I think it's the best show in high school sports, and I'd like to get more people down there to see it.
Yeah, we could definitely highlight have a post quarterfinals show and talk about the semifinals and the upsets and stuff. That'd be fun to talk about, and building up all that kind of stuff that like they talk about for the Olympics, when you really can't build up a semifinal match because it's all in one day, that type of stuff. So building up those matches is always good, and promotion, and it gives time if you have an upset and your kid from your random school makes a semis, they can call a busload of people and they'd come down Saturday morning to watch the semifinals and finals. So
Ed, is this going to be the warmest weekend in state finals history?
It might be. Definitely will be wearing my jorts. So with that, we will close it down. We've gone 2.5 hours, which we kind of expected after being set back a little bit. So we hope everyone enjoyed, and we'll see you guys, hopefully everybody down there tomorrow night. Should be some great wrestling.
6 o'clock.
Yep,
Thanks,
6 p.m. Thanks.